Chapter 1167. Impervious to Reason. Under. Chapter 1167. Impervious to Reason. Although Thousand Miles's tone was plain, his words stunned everyone in the arena. Even the evil dragon battle team's members, who were approaching from a short distance away, revealed stunned expressions, confusion in their eyes as they looked at Thousand Miles. What's the commander trying to do? Silent March could not believe her ears when she heard Thousand Miles's offer. She was not surprised that Thousand Miles had taken the initiative to invite Gentle Snow to Miracle. Rather, she was shocked by what he promised the Snow Goddess. Miracle was a super first-rate guild. When it came to number and quality of experts, Miracle was even stronger than some super guilds. The guild had no shortage of newcomers each year, either. However, no newcomer had ever become a guild elder or vice commander of one of Miracle's trump card legions the moment they joined. Even Silent March, a genius Miracle had nurtured internally, did not receive such a treatment. The vice guild leader really is going all out this time. Alice simply smiled. It was extremely difficult to become an elder in Miracle as there were a limited number of spots. Unless the guild expanded, it would not add more elders. As for the position of the Purgatory Legion's vice commander, countless players vied for such an honor. Thousand Miles didn't have the authority to give it away. Even Miracle's guild leader could not make such a decision alone. Such an important matter needed to be discussed among the guild's upper echelons. Since Thousand Miles had spoken with such certainty, he was definitely prepared to pay a massive price to recruit Gentle Snow. Based on the woman's performance in the last match, it was possible that he could fulfill those promises. Miracle Dragon didn't comment on the matter at all. However, Miracle's other experts glared enviously at Gentle Snow. He had offered her the position of one of Miracle's elders. They all strove for that position. Only by becoming an elder would one have truly joined the ranks of Miracle's upper echelons. It was like joining a company's upper management. If they became one of Miracle's elders, even the guild leaders of first-rate guilds had to treat them with respect. Thousand Miles had even promised Gentle Snow the position of vice guild leader. If they could become a vice guild leader, they would receive a portion of the guild's shares. They could also influence the guild's decisions. Standing by the side, Xueqi said nothing in regard to Thousand Miles's offer, though he did frown. Thousand Miles's poaching method was the perfect representation of how super first-rate guilds operated. Thank you for your invitation. However, I have no intention of leaving Zero Wing. Gentle Snow rejected the offer without hesitation. Why? Is Miracle not a match for Zero Wing? Thousand Miles frowned. He hadn't expected Gentle Snow to reject him so straightforwardly. She hadn't even considered his offer. This reaction irked him a little. You are very strong. If you remain in a guild like Zero Wing, you won't be able to fulfill your potential. However, if you join Miracle, you'll be able to display your abilities fully. In the future, as Miracle continues to develop, you will even have the opportunity to become a branch guild leader and manage an entire kingdom or empire. Although Thousand Miles hadn't been loud, the many expert players present could hear his words clearly, and they all gasped in shock. Many upper echelons and guild leaders stared at Gentle Snow enviously. They all wished they were standing in her shoes. Everyone knew that God's domain was massive, and that even super guilds could not single-handedly rule over the entire game. Hence, superpowers would create branch guilds in the various kingdoms and empires to develop and expand their guilds as a whole. These branch guilds' management would be left to the branch guild leaders. Becoming a branch guild leader was the equivalent of establishing a guild of their own. Moreover, this guild would have the support of a super guild. Becoming one of Miracle's branch guild leaders was many times better than becoming a vice guild leader. Even the main headquarters guild leader would have to treat them with respect. This was far better than being the guild leader of a measly first-rate guild. How about it? Won't you consider my offer? Thousand Miles had already investigated Gentle Snow's situation. He knew that Blackwater had annexed Ouroboros. Ouroboros no longer existed in the virtual gaming world. However, if Gentle Snow became a branch guild leader, she would be fully capable of establishing another Ouroboros. Only, said Ouroboros would bear the name Miracle's name. He believed that this offer could tempt the Snow Goddess. It was certainly a higher honor than being Zero Wing's vice guild leader. Thank you for your high evaluation, Vice Guild Leader Miles. However, I've already stated that I will not leave Zero Wing. If you have nothing else to discuss, I will be on my way, Gentle Snow said. She then turned and left, wanting nothing to do with 1,000 Miles. Everyone in the arena was flabbergasted. Gentle Snow had tossed away such a heaven-sent opportunity. They simply could not figure out what was going through Gentle Snow's mind. Had she lost the ambition she had when she had been the guild leader of a first-rate guild? Even if she had lost this ambition, she should still want to grow stronger. In that case, joining Miracle should be her best option. Big Sis Snow, you're so cool. I almost fell for you. Violet Cloud's eyes shone brightly as she tugged on Gentle Snow's delicate arm. Xueqi also released a sigh of relief. He was a little touched by Gentle Snow's response. Very few could hold themselves back when faced with the temptation of reality, not to mention the conditions 1,000 Miles had offered. As for Fire Dance and Alluring Summer, they simply smiled at 1,000 Miles. Although they had a word or two for the man, in the end, they chose to turn and leave. Miracle might be an insurmountable existence to Zero Wing right now, but the same could not be said for the future. They believed that it wouldn't be long before Xueqi transformed Zero Wing into an existence that even surpassed Miracle. What a fool! She is simply impervious to reason. Wrathful flames burned in 1,000 Miles' eyes as he glared at Gentle Snow's departing figure. Just you wait. It won't be long before you beg to join Miracle. The struggle for dominance in God's domain was only beginning. Mainstream players were beginning to obtain mounts, and various groups were beginning to occupy NPC towns. It was only a matter of time before conflict broke out between countries. Moreover, various industrial titans had begun to set their sights on the game, investing large sums. Soon, the competition between guilds would intensify. There was a saying that destruction pursued the great. In such a competitive environment, it would not be surprising for today's Overlord to vanish from the game tomorrow. At the end of the day, only superpowers like Miracle would continue to stand tall. Following which, 1,000 Miles led his subordinates out of the arena and headed for the Dark Arena's auction venue. Meanwhile, inside a VIP room upstairs, the Midnight Tea Party's members had watched every second of the competition. What an interesting guild. Endless Scars's cherry-red lips formed a joyful smile as she looked at the Azura Battle Team members. Due to this incident, Endless Scars's interest in the guild known as Zero Wing had grown. Her opinion was the opposite of those who were shocked and confused. The fact that an upstart guild could keep a former guild leader of a first-rate guild from leaving showed that this upstart guild held something even more attractive than what a super first-rate guild could offer. There was no other reason that someone who had once led their own guild would dismiss a rare opportunity to display their abilities on a larger stage, preferring the small state that no one paid much attention to. After the competition had ended, Xueqi headed towards the Dark Arena's exchange counter. Before the competition had begun, he had brought all of the guild's resources with him. Afterward, he had deliberately agreed to Miracle Dragon's challenge to push the Dark Arena's host to increase the competition's payout rate. And indeed, just as he had expected, the host had eventually offered a payout rate of 1-9 for a complete victory. After that, he had bet everything he could afford to lose on the Azura Battle Team. Here's my ticket. I would like to redeem my resources. Xueqi smiled as he handed over the ticket the Dark Arena's host had issued him to the female player manning the counter. He had bet 300+ pieces of level 40 dark gold equipment, 800+ pieces of level 40 fine gold equipment, as well as plenty of high-tiered magic scrolls and rare materials. The total value of his bet easily exceeded 90,000 gold. Sir, this, the woman manning the counter nearly jumped in shock when she saw Xueqi's ticket. Chapter 1168. Dark Auction. Chapter 1168. Dark Auction. Is there a problem? Xueqi asked the female receptionist. No, the amount is just a little too high for me to handle. I'll have to ask my superiors before I can transfer the resources, the receptionist said, smiling bitterly. The amount of resources recorded on the ticket Xueqi produced was frightening. There were usually many bets placed in the Dark Arena, and it was not uncommon to see players gamble several hundred or even over 1,000 weapons, equipment, rare materials, and tools. However, Xueqi's wager was completely outside of the norm. Just the level 40 dark gold equipment he had bet numbered more than 300. Various large guilds' mainstream equipment was still level 35. Level 40 weapons and equipment were still rare, much less level 40 dark gold weapons and equipment. Normally, guilds let their experts use these items. Very few guilds would be willing to gamble these items. In this competition, although there were quite a few first-rate guilds that had level 40 dark gold equipment, they had only bet around 20 to 30 pieces at most. Even then, it was considered an extravagance. Overall, the majority of the guild's wagers were level 35 weapons and equipment, tools and rare materials. Most importantly, Xueqi had bet on the Azura battle team's complete victory. The Dark Arena had to compensate him with 9 times the resources he had bet. According to the Dark Arena's rules, players would get priority over resources of the same rank when claiming their winnings. In other words, if a player had bet level 40 dark gold equipment, once the competition was over and said player collected their winnings, the Dark Arena would give that player the level 40 dark gold equipment that had been wagered on the losing team. Only when the Dark Arena was out of level 40 dark gold equipment would it compensate the player with items of a lower rank. Meanwhile, this competition was unusual. Rather than relying on the system, the Dark Arena's host was the bookkeeper. As a result, the bets did not follow the natural payout rates, which resulted in an unbalanced payout ratio. If the bets on the losing battle team were not enough to cover the bets placed on the winning battle team, the host would have to cover the rest. Xueqi had bet over 300 level 40 dark gold weapons and pieces of equipment. In other words, the Dark Arena had to pay him over 2,700 level 40 dark gold equipment. Xueqi was also going to redeem over 7,000 level 40 fine gold weapons and equipment. He was definitely going to wring the host dry. With so many weapons and equipment, one could easily arm a legion of 1,000 level 40 experts and have plenty to spare. Even the Dark Arena's host couldn't collect so many items within a short time. As the Dark Arena, there was a minimum requirement of the quality of the items wagered. For example, level 35 secret silver equipment would not be accepted. The bare minimum was level 35 fine gold weapons or equipment. The same was true for rare materials and tools. Although many had bet on the Evil Dragon battle team, there were still a few players who had bet on the Azura battle team's complete victory. In fact, one person had even gambled an epic item. After considering all of the bets, the remaining resources would not be enough to pay off Xueqi's claim. After a moment, the receptionist finally received feedback from her superiors. Turning to Xueqi, the receptionist awkwardly reported, "Sir, as your wager was somewhat large, so we aren't able to transfer all of the required resources within a short period. Aside from resources of the same rank, may I know if you are willing to accept a portion of the payment in coins or magic crystals?" "That's fine. I'll take payment in both coins and magic crystals." Xueqi nodded. He was not particularly surprised by this outcome. The host had set the payout rates too high. Even if a lot of people had gambled on the Evil Dragon battle team winning, there were bound to be a few who tested their luck. It was only natural that the host was in a predicament. After all, it was not that easy to procure top-tier resources. Even super guilds were not immune to the difficulty. In fact, the only reason he had so many items lying around was thanks to Pantheon, Blackwater, and Heaven's Burial. If he had not trapped and killed so many of their expert and elite players, he wouldn't have been able to collect so many items either. After all, when he placed items of such rank in the guild warehouse, guild members traded in their GCPs very quickly. Unless, of course, the host was willing to let their own guild experts go naked. Obviously, this was impossible. Afterward, Xueqi had Fire Dance and the others transport his winnings. In total, Xueqi had won tens of thousands of weapons, equipment, tools, and rare materials. Even his own bag space couldn't hold that many items. Guild leader, did you just rob the Dark Arena's warehouse? Fire Dance was breathless as she looked weapons and equipment in her bag. If it were simply common weapons and equipment, she wouldn't have said anything. Even the most inferior item was a piece of level 35 fine gold equipment. Our harvest is even greater than when we annihilated the Blackwater army. With this, our guild won't have to worry about weapons and equipment for some time. Gentle Snow's eyes shone as she looked at Xueqi's winnings. With these weapons and equipment, our guild can start expanding again. Weapons and equipment were a guild's foundation. To develop a guild, one first needed to develop the guild's weapon and equipment supply. Currently, guilds' main sources for weapons and equipment were powerful field bosses and large-scale team dungeons. This was also why the various large guilds needed experts. Without experts taking the lead, it would be very difficult for elite and ordinary players to kill powerful monsters or raid difficult team dungeons. However, what Gentle Snow did not know was that their harvest from the Dark Arena not only helped prepare Zero Wing for its next expansion, but it also covered their construction fees for upgrading Stone Forest Town to intermediate rank. Next, Xueqi simply needed to pay the construction fees and NPCs would begin rebuilding Stone Forest Town according to the Grandmaster town design. Transport these items back to the guild for now. I'll go and participate in the auction. When Xueqi glanced at the time, he noticed there were less than 10 minutes before the dark auction began. It would be a huge loss to miss out. Moreover, Xueqi had just obtained 420,000 magic crystals and 50,000 gold coins from the host. He had practically emptied the host's pockets. Following which, Xueqi hurried to the auction venue. The dark auction was known as one of the largest auctions in God's domain. There were always a plethora of items up for auction, and every one of them was of excellent quality. Even fragmented legendary items had been for sale in the past. Although many large guilds wanted to participate, it was extremely difficult to do so. The minimum requirement to attend the dark auction had been the same to enter the dark arena in the past. Moreover, each invitation was limited to one person. One could not bring guests. Of course, these rules hadn't been implemented yet. Any player that had received an invitation to the dark arena could take part. As soon as Xueqi reached the underground arena's top floor, he noticed a sea of people. There were more than double the number of players who had watched the competition. Upper echelons from super guilds and super first-rate guilds that had not been in the audience had arrived here. As Xueqi searched a place to sit, a familiar voice came from behind him. Yi Feng. When Xueqi heard this voice, he could not help but turn towards its source. Immediately, he noticed Autumn Goose. She had already risen to level 41 and wore silver armor trimmed in red. Standing beside Autumn Goose was the Wind God Spear's commander, Fallen Wind. The man had already reached level 42. His level was quite eye-catching as he stood among the crowd. A glamorous beauty stood next to these two. The woman wore deep red leather armor and had a tattered and broken sword hanging from her waist. Although she had hidden her level with her black cloak, one could easily tell she was a first-class assassin based on her sharp aura. Moreover, Xueqi was very familiar with this beauty's face. Almost every superpower in God's domain knew the woman's nickname. She was Arrogance, one of the flower of 7 sins 7 sins. Chapter 1169. Legacy Item. Under Chapter 1169. Legacy Item. They actually know each other. Xueqi was a little surprised to see these three walking together. He had never imagined that the Wind God Spear would have a connection with the Flower of 7 Sins. The Flower of 7 Sins was an organization that not even super guilds dared to provoke. Meanwhile, within the organization, the most famous players were none other than the 7 Sins. The peerless beauty standing before him wielded the title Arrogance, Hidden Soul. In the past, the Flower of 7 Sins had been hired to assassinate a super guild's guild leader. Eventually, the organization completed the task. Meanwhile, Hidden Soul was among those who took part in the assassination. A super guild's guild leader was extraordinarily strong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have risen to that position in the first place. In addition, a large group of peak experts usually followed these guild leaders, making assassinations nearly impossible. Yet the Flower of 7 Sins had succeeded. Due to that incident, Hidden Soul's fame had skyrocketed. That incident had shocked the entire virtual gaming world. Noticing Autumn Goose's excitement, Hidden Soul glanced at Xueqi before asking softly, "Autumn, is he an acquaintance?" At this moment, Xueqi wore a black cloak, so she couldn't check his level. However, the fact that the man had been allowed into the dark auction house proved his status. Yi Feng is the expert we told you about before. If not for his help, our Wind God Spear would have suffered tremendously. Autumn Goose nodded. That's right. If not for Brother Yi Feng lending a hand, we would have been trapped inside the Trial of God, Fallen Wind said. So, this is the guy you were talking about. Hidden Soul could not help but study Xueqi more carefully. While Hidden Soul quietly observed Xueqi, Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose approached him to say hello. Brother Yi Feng, long time no see. Smiling, Fallen Wind continued, I never thought that you'd be here to participate in the auction as well. Why don't you join us? He had personally witnessed Shifeng's strength, and he admired the man. It was also thanks to Shifeng that he had improved his combat standards. If possible, he really wanted to spar with Shifeng in the future. That's right. We came here with Big Sister Soul this time. Big Sister Soul's invitation card allowed us to use a room on the second floor. You get to know what items are up for auction in those rooms. This way, you'll have an easier time bidding on what you want, Autumn Goose added. Originally, Shifeng had wondered why Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose had been surprised to see him. Logically, they should have seen him in the arena. However, he understood after hearing the players' comments. Not many people were particularly interested in the Dark Arena's competitions. After all, the various superpowers would never reveal their true strength here. However, it was a different story for the Dark Auction. Hence, it wasn't unusual for others to be unaware of his situation. Moreover, Hidden Soul had brought Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose as her guests. It was even less likely for them to know about the Azura battle team. Seeing as both Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose had passionately invited him to join them, Shifeng agreed after considering the matter. Not just anyone could enter the second-floor rooms. Only superpowers had this privilege. Meanwhile, as Autumn Goose had said, the second-floor rooms provided a preview the items that were up for auction. With this insight, one could organize their funds and plan the items they wanted to buy. It was an advantage of status and position. For people from first-rate guilds or below, they could only wait for the items reveal patiently. While Shifeng chatted with Fallen Wind as they walked upstairs, Hidden Soul pulled Autumn Goose to a side and asked softly, "Little Autumn, did you say that Rain refused to leave her guild because of him?" "I'm not sure. I only know that Yifeng has quested with Rain several times. After that, no matter how much I tried to persuade her, she wouldn't leave Zero Wing. However, Zero Wing is impressive. Now that I think about it, even I envy her a little," Autumn Goose said, shaking her head. "So that's how it is." Hearing Autumn Goose's words, Hidden Soul shot Shifeng a frosty look. "It seems that I'll have to find an opportunity to get to know him properly." The Dark Auction House's second-floor rooms were quite spacious. Each one was roughly the size of a basketball court. Aside from the staff members stationed within, there was a table lined with precious alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. Any bottle on display could easily sell for 50 or 60 silver coins, with some worth over 3 gold. The fact that the Dark Arena's host offered the guests as many of these beverages as they wanted showed just how wealthy they were. Fallen Wind gulped when he saw the alcohol. Even he couldn't afford to indulge in alcohol worth 3 gold per bottle. Normally, he considered wine worth several dozen silver extravagant enough. After Shifeng and the others took their seats, the staff member handed each of them a list of the auctioned items. "Dear guests, our auction will be split into 2 segments. We will host the first segment, and all of the items for sale have been recorded on that list. The second segment will be a trading session. If you have any items you wish to put up for trade, our auction house will represent you. However, to assure the product's quality, we will charge a processing fee of 40 magic crystals or 10 gold coins for each item. In the case of raw materials, we will charge 60 magic crystals of 15 gold coins per stack." After everyone received the list, the staff member explained the Dark Auction's general process. Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose frowned when they heard the explanation. "This is simply too fraudulent," Autumn Goose whispered. Just getting the auction house to help promote their items cost a minimum of 40 magic crystals or 10 gold coins. There wasn't even a guarantee that their trade would be successful. This was practically daylight robbery. Even expert players had to grind for a long time to collect 10 gold coins. Otherwise, they wouldn't worry about affording amount. Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose finally understood why the host offered so many expensive beverages in these second-floor rooms. It felt as if they had already paid for the drinks. In the auction, the crowd was more interested in the trading session than the organizers' items. After all, there were many priceless treasures in God's domain. Those present generally had little need for coins and magic crystals. They were more willing to spend these currencies to purchase items that weren't available on the market. Hidden Soul simply smiled at Autumn Goose's reaction. Anyone capable of receiving a second-floor room invitation had an extraordinarily status or position. To people like them, 40 magic crystals and 10 gold coins were nothing more than spare change. Moreover, the The requirement's purpose was to ensure the quality of players' items. If the item were not of particular value, it wouldn't be worthwhile to invest 10 gold to trade it. Everyone here was wealthy. They naturally would not waste their time checking out worthless items. After the staff member finished his explanation, 3 people approached the auction hall center. Among them, 2 were tall, beautiful ordinary female players. These women were specifically tasked to display the auctioned items. The last person was a middle-aged man. He was obviously the auctioneer. When these 3 people took center stage, the venue fell silent. These players had fallen silent because the first auctioned item was simply too frightening. It was a legacy item that allowed one to class change into a hidden class. Chapter 1170. Difference in Wealth. Under Chapter 1170. Difference in Wealth. It's really a legacy item. The host is simply too amazing. They're actually auctioning such an item as well. What wealth? The auction hall was suddenly in an uproar. Even the people in the second-floor rooms could not help but pay attention to the item that was brought out. Although they had long since known that a legacy item was going to be put up for auction, the information they had regarding the item was very vague. As a result, they could only wait for the auction house to officially announce the specifics of the legacy item. Hidden classes were no longer a secret in God's domain. However, obtaining one was still extremely difficult. Even more difficult than getting an epic item. Moreover, unlike epic items, where there would eventually come a time when they would be discarded, hidden classes could accompany players throughout their entire gaming career in God's domain. Currently, any guild that obtained a clue or item leading to a hidden class would not even think of selling it. Meanwhile, seeing as the first item revealed in the dark auction was already so impressive, it was certain that the subsequent items would be of roughly similar quality. I believe everyone has already seen this item for themselves. As for the item's exact information, pardon us for not publicizing it. Consider this a security measure for the buyer. However, I can still share the basic details of this item with everyone. This is a Magic Knight's Legacy Shield. According to the legacy ranks, it is considered an advanced legacy. However, it is a defense-type hidden class. I believe everyone should know full well that its value is no less than that of peak legacies. As this item is very special, the seller of this item is accepting only magic crystals. The starting bid is set at 20,000 crystals, and each increment should be no less than 1,000 crystals. Let us begin. The instant the auctioneer finished speaking, a furor broke out in the entire auction hall. The starting bid was simply too high. Everyone could not help but be shocked by it. The dark auction accepted payment in both magic crystals and coins. However, compared to magic crystals, the various large guilds preferred to pay using coins, as magic crystals were truly difficult to obtain. Unlike coins, the sources of magic crystals were only dungeon bosses or monsters in certain regional dungeons. There were no other reliable methods of obtaining magic crystals. The only bright side was that the various large guilds had always been saving up on magic crystals for unexpected situations. Meanwhile, in order to successfully purchase the items they were aiming for, they had naturally brought their entire stockpile just in case. Nevertheless, just the starting bid was already 20,000 magic crystals, a price very few guilds could afford. Even first-rate guilds shuddered at this figure. However, the hidden class in question right now was a defensive-type hidden class. The various large guilds and famous adventurer teams still had to give it a try, even if they knew the price was ridiculously high. After all, an MT was the core of a team. A team with a powerful MT would have their overall strength elevated to a whole new level. 22,000 crystals. 24,000 crystals. 26,000 crystals. Immediately, people all over the auction hall began shouting out bids one after another. In the blink of an eye, the price of the legacy shield shot past 30,000 magic crystals. If converted to coins, that would be equivalent to 7,500 gold. A considerable amount even for first-rate guilds. Moreover, even if one had 7,500 gold, they would not be able to purchase 30,000 magic crystals. Magic Knight? Xueqi was somewhat astonished as he looked at the massive, tattered shield displayed on the stage. He had never thought that the Dark Auction House would be capable of obtaining the legacy for the Magic Knight class. The Magic Knight class had been a very famous hidden class in the past. It significantly strengthened not only an MT's attack capabilities but also their defensive capabilities. Most importantly, MTs that class changed to the Magic Knight class received a massive boost to their magic resistance. The class was an extremely rare hidden class. If he could have one of the guild's MTs become a Magic Knight, he would have a much easier time raiding the level 50 regional dungeon Tower of Time in the future. In the past, the Tower of Time was a place contested by all nearby kingdoms and empires. Not only did the Tower of Time produce magic crystals, but most importantly, it also produced 7 luminaries crystals. The mind space system had been activated a lot later in the past. Hence, by the time it was activated, mainstream players had long since exceeded the level limit of entering the Tower of Time. Even then, the battle for the dungeon had never once stopped. With the mind space system having been activated this soon, Xueqi could imagine how intense the competition over the Tower of Time would be. Meanwhile, practically all of the monsters inside the dungeon dealt high magic damage. Needless to say, the bosses inside were the same. Without sufficient magic resistance, entering the dungeon would simply be suicide. Currently, the main forces of the various guilds in God's domain were only a short distance from reaching level 50. Hence, Xueqi needed to make some preparations in anticipation. Before Xueqi could even place a bid of his own, he suddenly heard Hidden Soul bidding. 50,000 crystals. Immediately, the entire auction hall fell silent, everyone turning to look at the room Hidden Soul was in. If not for the second-floor rooms concealing the occupants' identities, most likely, the gazes from the first floor might have killed Hidden Soul several times already. Meanwhile, Autumn Goose and Fallen Wind, who sat beside Hidden Soul, were looking at their companion in shock. They never imagined that Hidden Soul could take out so many magic crystals. The Wind God's Spear could be considered an extremely famous adventurer team in the Dark Knight Empire. However, even they would be hard-pressed to gather up 10,000 magic crystals at a moment's notice. Yet, Hidden Soul, who did not belong to any guild, had actually placed a bid of 50,000 magic crystals. Moreover, players could not call out a bid if they did not possess the corresponding items. After the first-floor hall fell into a momentary silence, many people promptly gave up on the Legacy Shield. Although they wished to obtain it, they simply did not have the ability to do so. 51,000 crystals. 52,000 crystals. 53,000 crystals. Suddenly, the number of first-rate guild upper echelons calling out bids on the first floor decreased drastically. At this moment, any guild on the first floor capable of bidding was using practically every magic crystal the guild possessed, prepared to break the bank in order to get the Legacy Shield. As a result, the price of the Legacy Shield continued increasing by the thousands. 70,000 crystals. This was the bid of 1,000 Miles, who likewise was in a second-floor room. This price immediately silenced the first-rate guild upper echelons on the first floor, who were still considering bidding. That was 70,000 magic crystals they were talking about. Converted to coins, that would be 17,500 gold. With that kind of money, they could even purchase a good plot of land in the imperial capital of an empire. 80,000 crystals. At this time, a new bid came from another room. This time, the bid increased directly by 10,000 magic crystals. This situation stupefied the players on the first floor. Just taking out 50,000 magic crystals had already sunk the various first-rate guilds present into a financial crisis. Yet, from the behavior of those in the second-floor rooms, they were just getting started. The disparity in the economic strength of both sides was like the difference between heaven and earth. Pavilion Master, if we spend 80,000 magic crystals to buy this legacy, it'll be somewhat risky when the bidding for those 2 items begin, Martial Dragon reminded. In their trip to the Dark Arena this time, watching the competition was only secondary. Their true objective was 2 of the Dark Auction's finale items. It doesn't matter. Even if we really tried to compete, it is impossible for us to get both of those items. Rather than end up getting nothing at all, it is much better if we secure this Magic Knight legacy first. Later on, we can simply settle for competing for just one of those items. 9 Dragons Emperor replied calmly. Before the revelation that the legacy item was for the Magic Knight class, he indeed had not been interested in it. However, a defensive-type hidden class would be of significant help to him on Thunder Island. Moreover, if he had one of the guild's guardian knights start the class change process immediately after he returned, they could still make it to the contest in time. However, as soon as Nine Dragons Emperor placed his bid, a new one appeared in the hole. 100,000 crystals. This was a price that made even the players in the various rooms on the second floor wince. Just what kind of background do those people in that room possess? Could they have lost their minds? At that price, one can even buy a fragmented legendary item. Everyone could not help but turn to look at the room that placed this bid. Big Sis Soul. Autumn Goose felt as if this was her first time meeting Hidden Soul. The price of 100,000 magic crystals also gave the players in the second floor rooms pause. They all felt that this price exceeded their initial expectations. 100,000 crystals going once. 100,000 crystals going twice. Just as the gavel was about to land for the third time, a new bid appeared in the auction hall. 120,000 crystals. Chapter 1171. Solomon's Fragment. Under Chapter 1171. Solomon's Fragment. The words 120,000 crystals, echoing throughout the quiet auction hall, caused a sudden commotion. Just who is it that's so rich? You can buy several epic items at that price. This is crazy. 120,000 crystals. That is already double our guild's stockpile. Everyone present was shocked by the price of the Magic Knight Legacy. Meanwhile, 1,000 Miles, who had placed the bid, sent an anxious glance at Hidden Soul's room. Now that I've raised it by 20,000, I refuse to believe you will dare to compete with me. Initially, 1,000 Miles expected to get the legacy for only 90,000 magic crystals. Afterwards, he would still have a goodly amount of crystals to compete for the finale items. Now, however, his plans were disrupted. In order to guarantee his purchase of the legacy, he had no choice but to raise the price by 20,000 crystals to scare off any possible competitors. However, after a moment of silence, Hidden Soul called out a new bid once again. 130,000 crystals. She did not have even a shred of hesitation when calling out this bid. Sure enough, the Flower of Seven Sins really is wealthy. Sure Feng was astounded as he looked at the calm woman sitting close to him. Unlike super guilds, the Flower of Seven Sins did not have countless players collecting magic crystals for them. When it came to magic crystal gathering speed, the organization should be no match for super guilds at all. Nevertheless, Hidden Soul still managed to take out 130,000 magic crystals with ease. One could tell just how powerful the assassin organization was. 135,000 crystals. 1,000 Miles bellowed. This price was already nearing his acceptable limit. 140,000 crystals. Hidden Soul simply smiled as she placed an even higher bid. This price already deterred everyone else in the auction hall from competing for the legacy shield. Damn it! Just who is trying to compete with me? 1,000 Miles was burning with rage right now. The Magic Knight class was a hidden class perfectly suited to him. Yet, judging by the opponent's reactions, they still possessed plenty of funds to spare. The other party also seemed adamant in obtaining the Magic Knight legacy no matter what. Since you wish to compete against me, I want to see just what kind of ability you have. 160,000 crystals. The instant he placed this bid, even the players occupying the second floor rooms were taken aback. Even super guilds would need a long time to accumulate that many magic crystals. Yet, now, all these resources were being spent on just an advanced legacy. Instead of doing so, getting oneself an entire set of epic equipment would be much better. The improvement such a set could bring would definitely be much more than what the Magic Knight class could. Only when the auctioneer slammed his gavel for the first time did everyone wake up from their daze. As expected from the dark auction, Hidden Soul could not help but shake her head helplessly, a smile appearing on her face as she turned to look at 1,000 Miles' room. However, this is also a good outcome. At the very least, I'll have one less competitor later on. Now that the legacy shield's price had already reached this point, even she could no longer compete for it. The reason was not a lack of magic crystals. She had come here this time for 2 items, one of which was the Magic Knight legacy that the Flower of Seven Sins had found out about in secret. However, the other item had a higher priority. If she bought the Magic Knight legacy now, she definitely would not be able to obtain the other item. When the auctioneer's gavel descended for the second time, the entire auction hall was still silent. Seeing this situation, 1,000 Miles involuntarily breathed out a sigh of relief. He had permission to use only 140,000 of the magic crystals the guild had prepared for this auction for himself. He had cleared out his own stockpile to cover the excess amount and had even borrowed a lot from Alice. If someone called out a higher bid now, he really would have no choice but to give up on the legacy. Fortunately, however, he was finally able to achieve his goal by spending 160,000 magic crystals. 165,000. Just as the auctioneer's gavel was about to land for the third time, a new bid rang out again. Immediately, everyone turned to look at Hidden Soul's room. Damn it! Didn't he already give up? A cold glint flashed in 1,000 Miles' eyes. Meanwhile, inside Hidden Soul's room, Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose were staring at Xueqi with dumbfounded expressions. Why does he have so many magic crystals? A bewildered Hidden Soul also stared at the calm swordsman. She simply could not believe this situation was true. If a superpower had offered that many magic crystals for the Magic Knight legacy, she would, at most, feel a little frustrated at her loss. However, Xueqi didn't belong to any superpower, yet he still managed to come up with this many magic crystals. Hence her extreme shock. After all, a first-rate guild stockpile of magic crystals did not even amount to half of this price. Meanwhile, Autumn Goose and Fallen Wind were similarly shocked. Zero Wing was simply too wealthy. Just as everyone thought that the price of the Magic Knight legacy would continue increasing, contrary to expectations, 1,000 Miles fell silent. Although the price had increased by just an additional 5,000 magic crystals, this was an amount he could not come up with no matter what right now, unless he utilized the guild's prepared magic crystals. However, this was obviously not a viable option. Hence, he had no choice but to watch the auctioneer knock his gavel again and again. Let us congratulate the guest in room 017 for obtaining the Magic Knight legacy. At this moment, the auctioneer was thrilled. This was only the first auction item, yet it already sold at such a good price. The rest of the auction would no doubt be even livelier. Meanwhile, Xueqi also gritted his teeth as he paid 165,000 magic crystals to the auction house. If not for the 7 luminaries crystals in the Tower of Time, he wouldn't spend 165,000 magic crystals for the Magic Knight legacy no matter what. Following which, auction items sold one after another. However, rarely any of the subsequent items managed to attract the attention of the players in the second-floor rooms. Those who contested for these items were mainly players in the first-floor hall. The prices of these items were naturally no match for the Magic Knight legacy. However, they still sold for at least 200 gold. There was even another hidden class. However, it was only a basic legacy. Eventually, the first-rate guild Silver Knights purchased it for 18,000 magic crystals. Aside from that, a complete level 40 dark gold set equipment also went up for auction. The various superpowers of God's domain considered level 40 set equipment among the best equipment currently available. When the set equipment appeared, it immediately set off another bidding war in the auction hall. Eventually, Nine Dragons Emperor bought the 8-piece Wild Claws set equipment for 4,450 gold. At this price, one could already purchase an epic item. As the auction proceeded, the finale items of the day were finally ushered into the auction hall. There were 4 finale items in total, every one of them posing a great temptation for Xueqi. One was an ancient book, one was an epic weapon, one was an epic tool, and the last one was a secret technique tablet. When Xueqi had seen the list of items for auction, he nearly had jumped up in fright. He could not help but admit that the dark auction house was really powerful. Every one of these items could only be encountered by luck. Epic weapons were much more valuable than epic equipment. After all, weapons were things that could significantly improve a player's damage output. Meanwhile, epic tools were even rarer than epic weapons. Moreover, they would not occupy a player's equipment slots. Even an epic tool of average attributes would be far more valuable than an epic weapon. All 4 of the finale items were simply things that usually could not be bought even if one had the money to do so. This was especially true for the secret technique tablet. This was something highly sought after by all the various superpowers. As long as a guild had a secret technique tablet, they would be able to allow their experts to learn better and more powerful combat techniques. Although Xueqi wanted to have his guild members enter the secret technique tablet he possessed, unfortunately, grasping how to produce intermediate magic arrays was simply too difficult. Currently, aside from himself, only 2 other people had managed to do so. One of them was Violet Cloud, and the other was Alluring Summer. Sending only 3 people to use the secret technique tablet would be a tremendous waste. Hence, Xueqi had never bothered using it all this time. If not for the host trying to increase the Dark Auction's fame, they definitely wouldn't sell such a precious item. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item up for bids will be the first finale item of today's auction. Without further ado, let me present to you the one-handed sword Netherworld Brilliance. Saying so, the auctioneer publicized Netherworld Brilliance's information. Everyone's eyes glowed when they saw the weapon's attributes, drool nearly flowing from their mouths. As for Xueqi, he grew even more shocked after reading the weapon's introduction. Solomon's Fragment. Chapter 1172. Sword of Death. Under Chapter 1172. Sword of Death. The host is simply too generous. They're actually willing to sell even a famed sword? This weapon's attributes are much stronger than those of ordinary epic weapons. This is definitely the most amazing one-handed sword I've seen. Everyone gasped when they saw the attributes of Netherworld Brilliance. Players that used one-handed swords could not help but wish they could grab the weapon and give it a few swings right this instant. They really are going all out this time. There are only a total of 36 famed swords in God's domain. They are all unique epic weapons. Every one of them is a weapon that countless swordsman experts dream of obtaining. Yuan Tixin, who was seated inside a second-floor room, was slightly astonished when he saw Netherworld Brilliance. Practically everyone in the second-floor rooms came from one of God's domain's superpowers. To them, epic weapons were indeed rare but not entirely out of their reach. Getting one of their own was only a matter of time. However, famed swords were a different story. These were weapons adored by sword-wielding experts. If utilized properly, one could draw in those sword fanatics who were normally very difficult to recruit. Among the 8 swordmeisters on the God's Domain experts list, 3 were independent players. If the secret pavilion used a famed sword as bait, recruiting one of them might really be possible. Netherworld Brilliance, One-Handed Sword, Epic Rank. Level 40, Level 110, Level 40. Equipment Requirement: Strength 700, Agility 400, Attack Power plus 1340, Strength plus 101, Agility plus 72, Endurance plus 60, Attack Speed plus 15. When attacking, 20% chance to trigger Heavy Crash, increasing strength by 30% and attack speed by 20%. 20% chance to trigger Blur, making the attack impossible to be parried or blocked. 30% chance to trigger Double Critical. When equipped, strength increased by 10%. Agility increased by 5%. All sword-related skills plus 3 levels. Ignore levels plus 15. All sword-related skill completion rates increased by 2%. Additional passive skill 1 dash. Death Devour. Any creature that dies within 200 yards will provide wielder with a Death Devour buff, increasing wielder's attack speed by 1% and all sword-related skill completion rates by 0.1% for 30 seconds. Buff can be stacked up to 30 times. Additional passive skill 2 dash. Death's Phantom. Wielder's physique improves as HP decreases. Physique can improve up to a maximum of 20%. A Sword of Death created by famed Smith Jax using a piece of mysterious sword fragment. Netherworld Brilliance is one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, ranking 30th. Anyone that wields this sword will be enveloped in an aura of death, decreasing all their attributes by 20% and doubling the death penalty they suffer. Can be evolved. Cannot be destroyed. However, when everyone was finally done reading through the weapon's introduction, they all shook their heads and sighed. Netherworld Brilliance was indeed an amazing weapon. This was especially true for the increase to sword-related skill completion rates. Although it was only a meager 2%, boosting an 88% completion rate to 90% would allow a skill to undergo a qualitative transformation. Unfortunately, not only did the weapon decrease its wielder's basic attributes by 20%, but it also doubled the death penalty they would suffer, which was something most people wanted to avoid. Leveling up was extremely difficult in God's domain. Although Netherworld Brilliance would boost one's combat power significantly, nobody could say with certainty that they would not die. If one would originally lose 1 level when they died out in the fields, then they would lose 2 levels if they were wielding Netherworld Brilliance. Moreover, practically everyone present frequently raided large-scale team dungeons. Dying in such dungeons was common. Normally, they would only lose 10% of their EXP when dying in dungeons. If this penalty doubled to 20%, just thinking about it gave everyone chills. At this moment, everyone finally understood the auction host's generosity in putting a famed sword up for auction. Most likely, nobody in the host's guild wanted to be anywhere near the weapon at all. Hence, rather than let it sit in a warehouse and collect dust, the guild opted to exchange it for resources. Noticing the audience's lack of interest, the auctioneer chuckled and said, "Now that everyone has seen the weapon, I believe you all know the flaws of Netherworld Brilliance. However, at the end of the day, this is still an epic weapon. Moreover, this weapon can be evolved. If you manage to discover the method of evolution, this sword could become a godly weapon in the future. It might even become a fragmented legendary weapon. The starting price for this weapon is 8,000 gold. Each increment must not be lower than 200 gold." Hearing the starting price of the weapon, everyone inwardly cursed the auction house for being fraudulent. If not for the famed sword's flaws, not to mention 8,000 gold, even spending 18,000 gold to obtain it wouldn't be a problem. After all, it was an epic weapon that could be used all the way to level 110. In addition, there was the possibility of evolving it. Alright then. I'll get it as a collection item. I bid 8,000 gold. I can attract quite a number of people if I put it on display in my guild. I'll bid 8,200 gold. 8,400 gold. The audience in the auction hall was not particularly active in bidding for Netherworld Brilliance. After a dozen or so bids, the price eventually stopped at 11,000 gold. Xueqi's heart began beating madly as he looked at the weapon displayed on the stage. To others, this weapon would indeed be of little value. To him, however, it was a priceless treasure. Solomon's sword had been broken into 5 fragments. Among them, 3 were in locations that current players could not reach. Meanwhile, of the 2 remaining, Xueqi had already obtained one of them. The sacred sword killing ray. The last fragment was none other than this Netherworld Brilliance. Originally, Xueqi had planned on thinking of a way to obtain Netherworld Brilliance. However, he never imagined that the Dark Arena's host had actually gotten it already. Moreover, they even put it up for auction. This was one of the 10 great legendary weapons they were talking about. As long as he could gather all 5 fragments, he could reproduce the god sword of the past once again. Just thinking about it excited Xueqi. 12,000 gold. Xueqi raised the price slightly. Obviously, no one was that interested in Netherworld Brilliance. However, as it was a famed sword and also had the potential to evolve, there were still some people who were willing to bet on that possibility. Hence, he would not raise the price by too much. If he suddenly raised it too high, people would no doubt become suspicious. Thus, when calling out his bid, he could not offer too high or too low. What rich people! I don't want it anymore. Amazing! Someone's actually betting 12,000 gold on luck. Just as the other bidders were giving up one after another, a voice suddenly resounded throughout the entire hall. 13,000 gold. Meanwhile, the person who had placed this bid was none other than 1,000 Miles. You stole my legacy away. Do you think I'll let you get that weapon so easily? 1,000 Miles sneered as he looked at the room Xueqi occupied. Although 1,000 Miles did not know who was occupying the room, he could easily tell which room had placed the 12,000 gold bid. After noticing Xueqi's interest in Netherworld Brilliance, he naturally could not allow him to have an easy time. The person in that room is really vengeful, Autumn Goose growled as she looked at 1,000 Miles's room. Brother Yifeng, if you don't have enough money, just say the word. I can lend you all the money I have. Fallen Wind also grew indignant at 1,000 Miles's behavior. Thanks. I'll definitely borrow from you if I need to, Xueqi said. He then proceeded to place a new bid. 20,000 gold. This is madness. Even if that person is angry, there's no need to waste so much money, right? The rich are really willful. The new bid Xueqi made stupefied everyone. Everyone present was someone of high status and position. However, none of them would treat their money as lightly as Xueqi did, raising the bid by an additional 7,000 gold just to let off some steam. One could already buy another epic weapon with that kind of money. Wow! How rich! Alright then. I'll let you have it. 1,000 Miles laughed over this situation. However, he no longer dared to continue bidding as this might be a trap for him. He was already satisfied with getting Xueqi to waste an additional 8,000 gold. Following which, the auctioneer knocked his gavel 3 times. Let us congratulate the guest from room 017 for obtaining the famed sword Netherworld Brilliance. At this moment, the auctioneer was close to laughing out loud in joy already. Originally, he thought that getting to sell the famed sword for 12,000 gold was already plenty good. Now, he had actually sold it for 20,000 gold. On the other hand, after Xueqi paid the 20,000 gold and obtained Netherworld Brilliance, he too was inwardly jumping for joy. He couldn't care less about what others thought of him. He had just spent 20,000 gold to purchase one of the 5 fragments of Solomon's sword, one of the 10 great legendary weapons. This was an unimaginably low price. If the Dark Arena's host knew what they had just done, they would surely faint from shock. In the past, every fragment of legendary items put up for auction, regardless of whether they were usable or not, had readily sold for at least 50,000 gold, not to mention the fragment of one of the 10 great legendary weapons. The epic tool subsequently auctioned was roughly the same as Netherworld Brilliance in that it was somewhat useless. However, it could still be used to brew magic wine, which provided effects similar to the high-density mana environment in Stone Forest Town when consumed. However, the wine required rare materials for brewing. As a result, its production was fated to be low, only enough for the members of one's own guild at most. However, for guilds that did not possess the magic tower, the magic wine was undeniably an excellent way to improve the strength of their guild members. In the end, Phoenix Rain bought the tool for 14,000 magic crystals. As for the ancient book, Xueqi spent 70,000 magic crystals to purchase it. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that many among you have come here today for this last item. I won't waste words giving you an introduction. The starting bid for the secret technique tablet will be 200,000 magic crystals. Each increment must be at least 2,000 magic crystals. Let us begin. Chapter 1173. Legacy of Ancient Gods. Under Chapter 1173. Legacy of Ancient Gods. 200,000 magic crystals for a stone tablet. The players in the first floor hall clamored when they heard this. 200,000. I didn't mishear, right? What is this stone tablet? This is a joke, right? The majority of the players in the first floor hall were curious about the secret technique tablet. The most expensive item sold in the auction thus far was the Magic Knight Legacy. Even then, it still sold for less than the minimum price of the secret technique tablet. Everyone just could not figure out what kind of godly purpose the tablet served. However, none of the players occupying the second floor rooms was surprised by this price at all. The matter regarding the secret technique tablet was something the various superpowers had kept a tight lid on all this time. Even the first-rate guilds that knew about this secret were extremely few, not to mention other guilds. Following which, the auctioneer revealed the appearance of the secret technique tablet to everyone. This secret technique tablet had a bronze color and was named the Secret Spellcasting Technique. Secret Spellcasting Technique. The pattern engraved on this tablet is too vague and incomplete, and no information can be deciphered. However, some kind of divine power hides within this pattern. If one gathers all of the stone tablets, this vague and incomplete pattern can be restored. Current tablet count, 1/12. I knew the host wouldn't be that generous. Sure enough, they're just selling a bronze tablet, 1,000 Miles said contemptuously. Based on current information, secret technique tablets could be categorized into 3 ranks: bronze, silver, and gold. Among them, the secret techniques on bronze tablets were the weakest, while the secret techniques on gold tablets were the strongest. The fact that they're even willing to sell one is already a miracle. After all, it is still a secret technique tablet. Our guild already has a tablet for the secret spellcasting technique. If we obtain another piece, we'll be able to learn a more completed version of the spellcasting technique. Alice was elated at this situation. At the end of the day, a secret technique tablet was still a secret technique tablet. Regardless of the tablet's rank, the technique stored inside would be of great help to magical class players like herself. Part of the reason why she succeeded in grasping the double speed casting technique was the secret spellcasting technique. If they could gather 2 tablets for the secret spellcasting technique, she might even be able to improve her technique. Just thinking about this filled Alice with anticipation. I guess you're right. If not for them trying to popularize the dark auction, they really wouldn't be willing to auction such an item. Thousand Miles laughed. Regardless of the circumstances, he was going to obtain the secret spellcasting technique no matter what. Big Sis Rain, look. That's the secret spellcasting technique. Our guild doesn't even have a tablet for it right now. Blue Phoenix's eyes glowed as she looked at the bronze tablet. Although the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had obtained a few secret technique tablets, they all catered to physical classes. Not one of them suited magical classes. Even so, she and Phoenix Rain had still managed to benefit a lot from them. If Phoenix Rain could win the secret spellcasting technique in this auction, both of them might be able to improve their combat standards. If that happened, they would have more cards to play on Thunder Island. We have to obtain the tablet this time. At this moment, Phoenix Rain's eyes also burned with passion as she looked at the tablet on the stage. A bronze tablet? Purple Jade could not help but sigh. I knew they wouldn't be that generous. She had personally experienced the wonders of the secret technique tablets before, and was aware of the enormous difference between bronze and silver tablets. Even if one entered a bronze tablet 2 or 3 times, the harvest wouldn't be comparable to a single trip into a silver tablet. Rumor had it that a golden tablet had once appeared in Blackwing City. However, an NPC stole it. What a pity! It's actually a tablet meant for magical classes. Yuan Tianxin was slightly disappointed when he looked at the tablet. Never mind. Let's bid for it first. Despite the bronze tablet's introduction, the players in the first floor hall were still confused, not understanding what was so good about this secret spellcasting technique. As a result, their interest remained lackluster. Even a fool could tell that the host had no intention of selling the secret technique tablet at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put such a high price tag on it. Even a super guild would be hard-pressed to pull out this many magic crystals at a time. Not to mention, this was only the starting price. Just as the players on the first floor thought that the tablet would go unsold, someone from one of the second floor rooms suddenly shouted out a bid. 210,000 crystals. 9 Dragons Emperor stated calmly. This is insane. How rich is that guy? If he wants to buy it, then just do it. Is there a need to increase the price by an additional 10,000 crystals? Does he have too much money to waste? As expected of a superpower, they really are wealthy. 9 Dragons Emperor's bid shocked the players on the first floor. This amount of magic crystals was already more than 3 times what some first-rate guilds possessed. Meanwhile, 9 Dragons Emperor was actually spending so many magic crystals just for 1 stone tablet. Even fragmented legendary items wouldn't cost so much. However, even before the auctioneer could knock his gavel for the first count, the occupants of the other second-floor rooms began calling out bids one after another. 220,000 crystals. 230,000 crystals. 240,000 crystals. At this moment, it was as if magic crystals were no different from copper coins. Big Sis Endless. Have these guilds gone insane? Isn't it just a stone tablet? Is there a need to spend so many magic crystals? Cloud Yarn gaped in shock when she heard the bids. In the past, she had considered the midnight tea party plenty rich. After all, just the magic crystals they had stockpiled numbered over 20,000. Even if they splurged at the Divine Colosseum every day, they wouldn't be able to exhaust their stockpile within a short period. However, after arriving at this dark auction, she suddenly felt that the midnight tea party actually seemed beggarly. They're not stupid. This isn't just any ordinary stone tablet. Legend has it that these stone tablets are legacies left behind by ancient gods. Even if you obtain just one complete set, you'll have no problems establishing an empire in God's domain, Endless Scars explained as she looked at the secret technique tablet on the stage. The secret technique tablet was also something mentioned in the ancient book the tea party had. Although the information recorded about the tablets was sparse, it was enough to conclude that the tablet's value was no less than that of legendary items. According to the information in the ancient book, the Fire Dragon Empire, one of God's domain's 4 great empires, had managed to rise to its position today precisely because the first ruler of the empire had managed to collect a complete set. One could see just how amazing secret technique tablets were. If possible, Endless Scars wanted to obtain a piece for herself as well. However, looking at its price, even if she mobilized the Blackwater Corporation's power, it was unlikely she could get her hands on it. After all, the Blackwater Corporation's roots in God's domain were still too shallow. It could not yet compete with the various superpowers of the virtual gaming world. While Endless Scars was explaining the secret technique tablet, the price of the secret spellcasting technique had gone up to 296,000 magic crystals. This was a price that even those occupying the second floor rooms felt was a little excessive. As a result, instead of bidding in increments of 10,000 crystals, they now began raising their bids by 2,000. It seems the other guilds haven't prepared much at all. 1,000 Miles laughed disdainfully. 310,000 crystals. The moment the bid of 310,000 magic crystals was placed, the entire auction hall fell silent. Even Phoenix Rain, who had earned quite a fortune from the competition before, was helpless about this price. It seems that Miracle has prepared plenty this time. Fortunately, the guild leader had anticipated this, Yuan Tiexin said, chuckling. 330,000 crystals. If one were to say which guild made the most money in the entire God's domain, then it would definitely have to be the secret pavilion. When Xueqi heard the bids everyone was calling out, he could not help but fall speechless. Previously, he thought that after earning more than 400,000 magic crystals, nobody present could compete with his wealth. Now, however, it would seem that he had still underestimated the foundations of these superpowers. Had he not contested for the Magic Knight legacy before, he might have been able to contend for the secret technique tablet. Unfortunately, that was no longer possible. 340,000 crystals. Just as the secret spellcasting technique was about to become the secret pavilion's possession, Hidden Soul, who was seated not far from Xueqi, suddenly placed a bid. 350,000 crystals. 1,000 Miles shouted, gnashing his teeth. Hearing the various guilds occupying the second floor rooms calling out bids in rapid succession, paralyzed the players in the first floor hall. Meanwhile, at this time, Xueqi suddenly contacted Phoenix Rain. Phoenix Pavilion Master. Can you lend me 200,000 magic crystals right now? I'll return 300,000 crystals to you in 5 days, Xueqi suggested as he looked at Phoenix Rain in the screen. Chapter 1174. Legacy secured. Borrow 200,000 crystals and return 300,000. Phoenix Rain wore a surprised expression as she stared at Xueqi on the screen. She felt as if she were getting to know the man for the first time. A first-rate guild was already considered quite wealthy if they had a stockpile of 60,000 to 70,000 magic crystals. Yet, Xueqi wanted to borrow 200,000 magic crystals right off the bat. Moreover, he intended to return them with a 50% interest. This was twice as high as the market interest rate. Magic crystals were not coins. It was impossible to purchase magic crystals in bulk on the market. Guilds could only purchase a small amount from workshops or adventurer teams. Aside from that, guilds had to rely on their own members to raid dungeons and collect them gradually. In Phoenix Rain's opinion, although Zero Wing owned a gold mine like Stone Forest Town and business in the town's battle arena was booming, it was impossible for Zero Wing to earn 300,000 magic crystals within 5 days. Yet all she saw when she looked into Xueqi's eyes was confidence and serenity. Do you intend to bid for the bronze tablet? Phoenix Rain could not help but ask. That's right. Xueqi did not try hiding it. After all, it was easy to guess with a moment of thought. Seeing Xueqi's serious expression, Phoenix Rain shook her head. Chuckling, she said, I advise you to give that thought up. Even if I lend you 200,000 crystals, you won't outcompete them. While 350,000 magic crystals was an astronomical sum to even the best first-rate guild, the super guilds and super first-rate guilds that had come prepared had not yet reached their limit. In her opinion, Zero Wing must have earned a lot of magic crystals in the earlier competition. With the guild stockpile, they should roughly have around 180,000 or 190,000 magic crystals. Even if Xueqi borrowed 200,000 crystals, he would only have 390,000 magic crystals or so. There was simply no way to compete against the other superpowers. By her estimates, they would only have a chance of securing the secret spellcasting technique if they had 420,000 magic crystals. If possible, Phoenix Rain wanted to borrow 180,000 magic crystals from Xueqi. After including her own 250,000 magic crystals, she might have a chance at competing against the other guilds. However, she still needed to make preparations for Thunder Island, so if she did borrow the magic crystals, she wouldn't be able to return it within a short time. I still have 260,000 magic crystals. After including your 200,000, I think I'll have enough. Xueqi understood what Phoenix Rain was trying to say. Smiling, he continued, if it truly is impossible, I can only admit defeat. 400,000 magic crystals should be the various superpowers' limit. Even if they had more, it wouldn't be too far from that number. While a bronze tablet was inferior to a silver tablet, it had a much lower entry requirement. Silver tablets required players to be capable of drawing intermediate magic arrays. Bronze tablets only required players to be capable of drawing basic magic arrays. As for golden tablets, Xueqi assumed that players would be required to draw advanced magic arrays to enter. Even someone like himself, who was quite familiar with magic arrays, could not draw an advanced magic array. Even if he obtained a golden tablet, it would be nothing more than a paperweight. On the other hand, if he had a bronze tablet, his guild members could use it. Hence, obtaining a bronze tablet was very important to Zero Wing right now. Even if he was not certain he could win the bid, he needed to try. 260,000? You have that many? Phoenix Rain gasped. She never thought that Zero Wing would have even more magic crystals than her. Immediately, her lips curled into a smile as she said, let's do it like this. I'll lend you 250,000 crystals. I won't ask for any interest, either. Just pay me back in full in 5 days. However, I want 10 slots to enter the bronze tablet. We'll split the slots into 2 months, with 5 people entering each session. Secret technique tablets could only be used once a month. Even if she obtained one, she would only enter it once. A player would reap the most benefits from a secret technique tablet during their first entry. Afterward, a player would gain less with each subsequent visit. The tablet's greatest advantage was that players could use it repeatedly. She had bid for the bronze tablet mainly to improve her strength before the contest on Thunder Island began. She did not particularly care about the benefits she could obtain during subsequent entries. Deal. Xueqi agreed without hesitation. The secret spellcasting technique was intended for magical class players. Throughout Zero Wing, there were only a few magical class experts qualified to enter the bronze tablet. 10 slots over 2 months would be enough. Following which, both sides quickly signed a contract. Phoenix Rain then had Blue Phoenix deliver the magic crystals to Xueqi. While this was happening, the secret spellcasting technique's price had risen to 394,000 magic crystals. The various large guilds in the first floor hall were astounded. Although they had long since known that their guilds were no match for super first-rate guilds and super guilds, they had not realized that the gap would be this massive. Damn it! Just who is competing against me? 1,000 Miles bellowed as he glared at 2 other rooms. Currently, the tablet's price neared his limit, yet Hidden Soul and Yuan Tianxin showed no signs of giving up. After taking a look at the magic crystals in his bag, 1,000 Miles shouted, 400,000 crystals. 404,000 crystals. Hidden Soul declared, maintaining her calm composure. Interesting. At this moment, Yuan Tianxin laughed and yelled, 410,000 crystals. Immediately, the auction hall became a battlefield for these 3 people, the atmosphere growing extraordinarily chilly. 440,000 crystals. 1,000 Miles no longer planned on holding back as he directly raised the price by 30,000 magic crystals. He hoped to scare Hidden Soul and Yuan Tianxin off. Uncle Yuan, the price is already at 440,000 crystals. This is far above the tablet's actual value, Purple Jade said. The secret technique tablet would massively benefit players. However, the secret spellcasting technique was only bronze rank. In reality, a tablet for that technique should only be worth around 300,000 magic crystals. It was simply not worth 440,000 magic crystals. I understand, Yuan Tianxin said. He had simply bid 410,000 to probe his opponent's limits. In another room, Hidden Soul frowned. Let's give it another try. If it really isn't possible, I can only give up. Hidden Soul also felt that the price was a little too high. Immediately she shouted, 444,000 crystals. Damn it! Damn it all! Why hasn't he given up? We are already at 440,000. 1,000 Miles burned with rage. If not for Miracle already having a tablet for the secret spellcasting technique, he wouldn't be willing to pay the astronomical price of 440,000 magic crystals. However, the guild leader had told him to go all out for the secret spellcasting technique. Hence, he had no choice. He even had to bleed his own stash. This must be that guy's limit. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risen the price by just 4,000 crystals. Even the Witch of the West herself was slightly anxious. 450,000 crystals. 1,000 Miles decided to give it one last try. This was also his limit. The moment 1,000 Miles called out his bid, the venue fell deathly silent. Just when is he going to reach his limit? Are magic crystals really that easy to obtain? The various guild upper echelons in the first floor hall lost their minds over this situation. Was such desperation really necessary for this stone tablet? Ha! It seems I can only give up. Hidden Soul smiled bitterly as she shook her head. She had never imagined that, despite bringing so many magic crystals with her, she would walk away empty-handed at the end of the day. If she had known this would happen, she would have purchased the Magic Knight Legacy. Seconds ticked by. The auctioneer grew nervous on the stage. However, even after a long moment, no word came from Hidden Soul's room. 454,000 crystals. However, just as 1,000 Miles thought that his opponent had given up, a new bid echoed from Hidden Soul's room. How is this possible? 1,000 Miles bellowed. He simply could not believe this. Hidden Soul had been silent for so long, yet she had placed a new bid. However, 1,000 Miles had nothing more to bet. He had no choice but to watch as the auctioneer's gavel descended again and again. As the gavel descended for the third time, the auction hall exploded with noise. Chapter 1175. Preparations to construct a city. Under Chapter 1175. Preparations to construct a city. How does he have so many magic crystals? Hidden Soul began to size the nearby Xueqi up seriously. The man had already surprised her by buying the Magic Knight Legacy. Now, he had spent another 450,000 magic crystals to buy the bronze tablet. Xueqi had spent over 600,000 magic crystals in total. Even the Flower of Seven Sins needed time to prepare so much wealth. It seems that we will need to investigate this Zero Wing. Hidden Soul suspected that the guild known as Zero Wing wasn't as simple as Autumn Goose had described. Meanwhile, after winning the bronze tablet, Xueqi quietly rejoiced. Although he had spent a lot of magic crystals, the secret spellcasting technique was akin to the gospel for the guild's magical class experts. At the end of the day, he was only a swordsman, a physical melee class. He could only offer general spellcasting technique advice. He could not guide them as thoroughly as he could the melee classes. As a result, the physical classes' technique standards were higher than the magical classes in Zero Wing. Now that he had obtained the bronze tablet, as long as Aqua Rose, Violet Cloud, Alluring Summer, and the other magical class experts improved their technique standards, they could guide the other magical classes in the guild. Inside 1,000 Miles' room. The tension in the room was almost solid. Starstreak, find out who is in room 017 right this instant. 1,000 Miles ordered in a chilly tone. Not only had he failed to obtain the Magic Knight Legacy, but he had also failed to obtain the bronze tablet. He would definitely have a hard time explaining himself when he returned to headquarters. Understood. Starstreak nodded. Immediately, he left to surveil room 017. Although the rooms in the dark auction protected their occupants' privacy and prevented others from spying, the people inside the rooms had to come out sooner or later. At that time, they would discover who occupied room 017. Meanwhile, as the dark auction's first segment came to an end, the popular second segment began. All players in the auction hall could offer their items for trade during the second segment. This bartering session was the main reason behind the various large guilds' visit to this auction. Normally, When the various large guilds obtained a rare material, they wouldn't trade it even if they had no need for it. However, oftentimes, other guilds desperately needed these useless items. Hence, these guilds could use this auction to barter their unnecessary rare materials for things they actually needed. Trading 3 single-target, attack-type magic scrolls for 1 set of basic magic arrays. Trading 1 stack of mana cloth for 1 stack of flaming ice crystals. Trading 1 stone skin potion recipe for 1 flame protection potion recipe. Message after message appeared on the large screen above the stage. None of the auction house's patrons had any complaints about the exorbitant processing fee. After all, even the cheapest items they listed were worth 50 gold or more, with some worth several hundred gold. Just looking at the exchange messages on the screen made everyone a little jealous of the host. The minimum processing fee was 10 gold coins. If the host processed 100 items, they would earn 1,000 gold. In an auction with over 10,000 people, if every person placed an item up for trade, the host would instantly receive 100,000 gold. Furthermore, why would any of these players have come here to trade a single item? One had to admit that holding an auction like this was way more profitable than banditry. This was also inspiration for how Xueqi could operate auctions in the candlelight trading firm in the future. He might not be able to invite as many large guilds and superpowers as the Dark Auction House had, but he could lower the standards of his auction slightly, not only allowing large guilds to bid, but independent players as well. Suddenly, Xueqi had an idea. He could establish a bartering site that enabled trade between players. In God's domain, aside from auction houses and underground arenas, player-constructed cities could offer players trading locations. Players could not purchase locations such as auction houses and underground arenas in NPC cities. However, as long as players had their own cities, they could construct their own bartering sites. The city could then allow bartering through the system. In the past, there were no such specialized bartering sites in God's domain. This was due to the various large guilds. When independent players obtained rare items, if they wanted to trade them for good items, their best option was to go to a large guild. After all, independent players were not necessarily well connected. With this, the various large guilds could buy rare items at a cheaper price. If a specialized trading post were constructed, however, the various large guilds would have a hard time obtaining rare items cheaply. The lack of such locations had also been due to how rarely independent players got their hands on valuable items. In addition, due to geographical restrictions, players generally only traded in their own country. As a result, there were even less rare items available for exchange. Hence, even after the various large guilds had established their own cities during the mid-late stages of the game, they had not bothered to construct these locations. Even if a guild established a trading post in their city, other guilds wouldn't prosper over much. The amount of money one could earn from such a bartering location would be so pitiful that they would be better off trading with independent players privately. However, Xueqi's situation was slightly different. God's domain was still in its early stages. The various large guilds were having a headache just trying to develop their own towns, not to mention constructing a city. Meanwhile, he had a city-building order. This gave him with a massive advantage. If he constructed his city now, he wouldn't have a single competitor. He could be the first one to expand the market, establishing a firm reputation like the Dark Arena. In the future, when players from other kingdoms and empires thought about trading their rare items, they would come running to his city to do so. The other guilds would be helpless to do anything about it. Even after other guilds established their own cities, his trading post would have grown to a considerable scale. He would have a steady supply of rare items. At that time, it would be near impossible for newly established trading posts to compete with his. Although the large guilds obtained plenty of rare items, the majority of God's domain's player base would forever be independent players. If these independent players gathered, they could obtain far more rare items than any super guild. Due to the difficulty of private trades, it was practically impossible for independent players to exchange their items with each other. Hence, they sought large guilds to barter with. If a specialized bartering center were available, however, independent players would only need to consign their items. Other players could then purchase those items. They wouldn't need to idiotically contact one person after another. Not only could they save a lot of time and trouble, but they could also obtain the items they wanted. Even if the teleportation fees were expensive, most likely, Many independent players would make the trip to visit the trading post. Xueqi could not help his growing excitement. However, to construct his city, he first needed to obtain a sufficient number of 7 luminaries crystals. Otherwise, without the 4 towers of elements protection, defending the city would be too difficult. It seems that I need to put the plan into action now. After pondering over the matter, Xueqi decided to begin collecting 7 luminaries crystals. While 7 luminaries crystals were incomparably rare and precious, there were a few locations that had them. Unfortunately, these locations were extremely dangerous, and he would need to prepare. The easiest place to obtain 7 luminaries crystals Xueqi could think of was the Sea of Death's Demon Island. Only, the journey was particularly dangerous. Demon Island was also a forbidden land for the living. Without sufficiently high darkness resistance, survival was impossible. Xueqi immediately began to browse the auction house's rare items, searching for items that increased darkness resistance. After searching for some time, Xueqi finally found 2 good items on the list the system had provided. Both could significantly increase a player's darkness resistance. One of them was a Master Darkness Resistance Potion, while the other was a light cloak. However, before Xueqi could celebrate, he saw the items' prices, and his expression darkened. Is this person insane? Who would use shadow gold and ancient wood to purchase these items? Just as Xueqi was about to curse again, he was stunned by the trader's name. The same person had placed these 2 items up for trade. Silent Wonder. One of God's domain's 10 great Grandmaster Alchemists. Chapter 1176. 10 Great Grandmaster Alchemists. Under Chapter 1176. 10 Great Grandmaster Alchemists. Why is she here? Even after staring at the trader's name for a long time, Xueqi still could not believe his eyes. That was the 10 great Grandmaster Alchemists they were talking about. These existences stood at the peak of all alchemist players. Even super guilds had to treat them respectfully. One could say that all of God's domain's guilds and players tried to suck up to such individuals. After all, the further one proceeded into the game, the more powerful the monsters became. If players wanted to defeat these monsters, they needed more than just personal strength. They also needed external items. For example, when facing fire-type bosses, a team would burn to death without high fire resistance, regardless of how strong the team was overall. If every member in the team possessed a Grandmaster Fire Resistance Potion, however, they would easily defeat said fire-type boss. Another example was Xueqi's new destination, Demon Island. Demon Island was already very dangerous. However, with the ever-present dark miasma, players couldn't set foot on the island without darkness resistance. Aside from that, the Tower of Time similarly required high magic resistance. A team would need a large number of magic resistance potions. However, not just any magic resistance potion would do. They would, at the very least, need advanced rank potions, or better yet, master rank. The guild with the most magic resistance potions would obtain more 7 luminaries crystals. Moreover, this was only one of the many benefits of an alchemist. There were simply too many dangerous locations in God's domain that required these external items. Hence, the various large guilds normally treated Master Alchemists and Grandmaster Alchemists very respectfully. Among the 10 great Grandmaster Alchemists, Silent Wonder firmly ranked within the top 3. Even the guild leaders of first-rate guilds would have a hard time arranging a meeting with Silent Wonder, and even if Silent Wonder agreed to meet, they would still have to queue up and wait for their turn. Shadow gold and ancient wood? Xueqi fell into deep thought as he looked at the 2 items Silent Wonder wanted in exchange. Shadow gold was an epic ranked material. If one added a piece of it when crafting weapons and equipment, the weapons produced would deal additional darkness damage, while equipment would provide additional darkness resistance. It was an exceptional material specifically used for producing darkness resistance equipment. In the past, 1 ingot of shadow gold had easily sold for 300 gold. However, players rarely sold the material. They were normally pieces of lifestyle players' private collections. As for ancient wood, its price was even higher. A single log could sell for 500 gold. It was also an excellent epic material used to produce staffs, ships, carriages, furniture, and other wooden products. The total value of these two materials greatly exceeded that of a Master Darkness Resistance Potion and a Light Cloak. Why does an alchemist like her want these items? Xueqi was incredibly curious. Neither shadow gold nor ancient wood was used in alchemy. However, Xueqi did not think too much on the matter. Immediately, he sent Silent Wonder a message. His message was very brief. I have clues regarding the whereabouts of these two items. Current players couldn't get their hands on shadow gold or ancient wood. Even if one reached the required level, it would still be a difficult task. Otherwise, they wouldn't be considered rare materials. However, Xueqi urgently needed items with darkness resistance. A Master Darkness Resistance Potion and Light Cloak could not be more perfect. The Light Cloak, in particular, significantly increased a player's darkness resistance. As long as he equipped the Light Cloak and consumed an intermediate darkness resistance potion when he reached Demon Island, he could roam the island with ease. Shortly after Xueqi sent his message, he received a friend invite from Silent Wonder. Xueqi then agreed to the friend request. This way, they could discuss the matter through a video call. Do you really have the clues leading to shadow gold and ancient wood? Silent Wonder did not appear very old. She looked like a woman in her mid-20s. She had an oval face and large, golden eyes. She also gave off an indescribably cold and strict feeling. Shadow gold can be used to craft darkness resistance equipment, and ancient wood can be used to produce a staff that possesses the power of the ancients, which amplifies the effects of the wielder's spells. Am I correct? Xueqi said, smiling. Hearing this, joy illuminated Silent Wonder's golden eyes. Both shadow gold and ancient wood were extremely rare epic materials. Even she had spent a long time researching to find any information about them. Now that Xueqi had casually mentioned the material's functions, he proved how familiar he was with the items. Come out with it. What must I do for you to tell me the clues? Silent Wonder asked straightforwardly. She had spent a lot of effort in her search for these materials. She had used every connection she had, yet she hadn't learned anything that would lead to their locations. She had simply come to the dark auction to try her luck. She hadn't expected anyone to know anything about these two items. You're an alchemist, right? Xueqi responded to her question with a question of his own. How do you know? Did you investigate me? Silent Wonder was slightly surprised, and she could not help but grow cautious. Why would I need to investigate you? Xueqi laughed as he shook his head. Don't you realize that you're wearing the Advanced Alchemist's insignia? Different subclasses had different insignias, and each provided certain benefits to their respective classes. The screen showed that Silent Wonder currently wore an Advanced Alchemist's insignia. This showed that Silent Wonder had already become an Advanced Alchemist. Xueqi had to admit that Silent Wonder was truly impressive. Despite being an independent player, she had grown into an Advanced Alchemist so quickly. The various large guilds had to spend a ton of resources to nurture an advanced lifestyle player. Even then, very few lifestyle players actually reached the advanced rank, yet Silent Wonder had done so without help. One could just imagine how talented she was in alchemy. Moreover, Silent Wonder had been more than just a Grandmaster alchemist. She had also been a Tier 5 class. I completely forgot about that. Silent Wonder could not help but laugh awkwardly as she looked at the insignia on her chest. That's right. I'm an advanced alchemist. Is there a problem with that? Of course, there isn't a problem, Xueqi said, chuckling. You want the clues for those two materials, right? My conditions are very simple. Give me the Master Darkness Resistance Potion and Light Cloak and craft potions for me for 1 month. I'll provide the raw materials. Are you kidding me? Silent Wonder rolled her eyes. It would have been fine if Xueqi had only wanted the two items. However, he also wanted her to work for free for a month. He must be crazy if he thought she would agree to such conditions. I never joke around. Xueqi understood what was going through Silent Wonder's mind. Immediately, he sent Silent Wonder a message and said, Take a look at this. If you still think my asking price is too high, you can reject it. Are you that confident? Silent Wonder felt as if she had just encountered a lunatic. First, the man wanted her items. Next, he wanted her to work for free for a month. Did he really think he could get her to agree by sending a single message? Following which, Silent Wonder impatiently opened Shifeng's message and read it. However, only after reading a few words, her expression tensed. Why do you have such an item? Silent Wonder felt as if she were dreaming. Shifeng had sent to her none other than the records of potions, which he had obtained shortly after joining God's domain. All alchemists dreamed of owning this treasure. Yet now it had been placed before her. The records of potions even tempted the brilliantly talented Silent Wonder. Chapter 1177. Reconstructing a Town. Under Chapter 1177. Reconstructing a Town. This is still only a part of it. How about it? Interested in my offer now? Shifeng smiled calmly as he quietly looked at Silent Wonder's joyful expression. Like the Book of Forging, the records of potions was a treasure that could improve one's alchemy success rate. Moreover, it contained basic information about potion crafting. With the records of potions, players would not have to explore basic alchemy techniques blindly. It could pave the way for becoming a master alchemist. As for whether one actually became a master alchemist, however, that depended on the player's talent. Silent Wonder did not have the support of a guild. According to Shifeng's memory, in the past, Silent Wonder had obtained practically all of her alchemy materials by herself. Also, unlike guild alchemists, who could confide in each other regarding alchemy techniques and improve together, Silent Wonder had gained her alchemy techniques without any assistance. Moreover, ordinary NPC cities also did not possess facilities like special workshops. Needless to say, the various large guilds didn't allow non-guild members to use their limited special workshops. After all, they didn't even have enough to nurture their own lifestyle players. Furthermore, independent players had no access to NPC cities with special workshops. Take the holy city of Titan for example. Without sufficient strength and luck, reaching the city was simply impossible for an independent player like Silent Wonder. I'll say this first. Once I've fulfilled my 1-month contract, I'll leave immediately, Silent Wonder stated. With her alchemy skills, she could easily join any large guild. Even super guilds would willingly accept her. However, she hated the various restrictions that came with joining a guild and disliked doing work that didn't interest her. Hence, she had opted not to join a guild. You're overthinking things. It isn't even certain if you are capable of remaining in my employment after a month, Shifeng said, chuckling as he shook his head. Hearing Shifeng saying so, Silent Wonder frowned. This was her first time being underestimated like this. She was a bona fide advanced alchemist. She would be an important member of any guild she joined. In fact, she had gained an invitation to the Dark Auction, to begin with, because a large guild wanted to recruit her. In her opinion, Shifeng was trying to use reverse psychology. However, such means were useless against her. Once the month was over, she would definitely leave. Following which, Shifeng and Silent Wonder signed a contract. The contents were very simple. Silent Wonder would hand over the Master Darkness Resistance Potion and Light Cloak. Afterwards, she would work at the Candlelight Trading Firm for a month. In return, Shifeng would share the clues leading to the Shadow Gold and Ancient Wood with Silent Wonder. After Silent Wonder confirmed that there were no problems with the contract Shifeng had sent her, she signed it. You can tell me the clues leading to the materials now, right? Silent Wonder asked coldly. If not for the records of potions, she wouldn't have made such an unworthwhile trade. After all, the Master Darkness Resistance Potion and Light Cloak were both precious items she had obtained after completing a difficult quest. Trading these 2 items for 2 clues was a loss. Only level 70 and above Darkness-type bosses have a chance of dropping Shadow Gold. Moreover, the bosses must be Grand Lord rank or above. Ancient Wood can be found near the lake in the deepest parts of the neutral map Xueqi. That area is home to elves. They aren't fond of humans, so it won't be easy to get past them. Shifeng revealed the information. The 2 locations he mentioned were the easiest places to obtain Shadow Gold and Ancient Wood. The other places he knew about were far more dangerous, and even if Silent Wonder was quite strong, she couldn't obtain the materials by herself. Xueqi. Silent Wonder checked the system map. When she found Xueqi, she was speechless. Xueqi was an ancient forest located north of the Frostwolf Empire. The forest had always been the biggest threat to the empire. You had to be at least level 80 to enter. Moreover, the neutral map size rivaled that of a medium-sized kingdom. She simply did not know what to say about this. With her current strength, it was impossible for her to act on any of the information she had just received. I've already told you the clues. You are to report for duty at Star Moon Kingdom's candlelight trading firm by tomorrow night at the latest. After Xueqi was done speaking, he immediately disconnected the call. Shadow Gold and Ancient Wood were both epic-ranked rare materials. If Silent Wonder wished to obtain them, she needed to reach level 80 at the very minimum. Particularly, Ancient Wood was highly sought after by even super guilds. If Silent Wonder wished to procure some all by herself, she could not even consider doing so before reaching level 100 in class, changing to her tier 3 class. Hence, Xueqi had not spoken in detail when he mentioned the clues to Silent Wonder. If he told the woman the minimum strength required to obtain these materials, she would most likely lose her mind. Afterward, Xueqi received the Master Darkness Resistance Potion and Light Cloak, delivered to him by a staff member. Without waiting for the dark auction to end, he said his goodbyes to Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose before returning to White River City. Although there were many rare items up for trade in the dark auction, there wasn't anything that Xueqi was particularly interested in. So there was no need for him to stay behind. Shortly after Xueqi exited the room, Starstreak, who had been in a stealth state this whole time, appeared a short distance away from room 017. Why is it him? Starstreak found it somewhat unbelievable when he saw Xueqi coming out of room 017. In his opinion, anyone capable of spending over 600,000 magic crystals within a short period of time must be an upper echelon of a major power. Yet, the buyer of both the Magic Knight Legacy and Bronze Tablet was actually Zero Wing. However, Starstreak did not ponder too much on the matter. Immediately, he forwarded the information to 1,000 Miles. What? Zero Wing was the one who bought those 2 items. Starstreak was given a fright by this message. However, he quickly revealed the sneer on his face as he said, "Good, very good. Starstreak, go and make some preparations. Get Cleansed Maple to assist you in leading the Departed Legion, and kill Zero Wing's experts. Make sure to steal that Magic Knight Legacy, as well as those epic weapons and equipment from them. Any large guild that obtained a bronze tablet would definitely store it in their guild warehouse. Unless they burnt down the guild residence storing the bronze tablet, it would be impossible for them to obtain it. However, it was a different story for the Magic Knight Legacy item, and epic weapons and equipment. If one wanted to obtain the Magic Knight Legacy, they would have to complete the Legacy quest. As long as Zero Wing's experts left their guild residence, there would be plenty of chance to strike at them. Starstreak was momentarily stunned by 1,000 Miles' words. Very quickly, however, he nodded and said, "Understood." The Departed Legion was Miracle's Assassination Legion. It was a legion specifically formed to target the upper echelons of the various superpowers. In Starstreak's opinion, they were simply making a mountain out of a molehill by mobilizing the legion against Zero Wing. Meanwhile, in Star Moon Kingdom's White River City, Xueqi had also stealthily arrived at the Adventurers Association. Without hesitation, he paid 30,000 gold to the association to have them begin reconstructing Stone Forest Town. The moment Xueqi handed over the 30,000 gold coins, the sound of a system notification entered his ears. System. Congratulations! As Zero Wing is the first guild in God's domain to have reconstructed an intermediate town, guild popularity increased by 200,000 points. You will also receive 1 Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order. Chapter 1178. Promotion to a 3-star guild. Under Chapter 1178. Promotion to a 3-star guild. The sudden system notification put Xueqi into a daze for a long time. He had merely reconstructed an intermediate town, yet Zero Wing's guild popularity had instantly soared by 200,000 points. It should be known that a 1-star guild only needed 30,000 popularity to promote to a 2-star guild, while a 2-star guild needed 100,000 popularity to promote to a 3-star guild. The further one progressed into the game, the more difficult it was to obtain guild popularity. When a guild was still at the 1-star standard, guild members could earn quite a lot of guild popularity just by completing ordinary guild quests. With how many players there were in a large guild, the number of guild quests completed each day was plenty. It would take no time for a guild to accumulate 30,000 popularity. The truly difficult aspect of promoting a guild to 2 stars lay in obtaining the guild residence promotion order. However, after a guild reached 2 stars, guild members would no longer obtain guild popularity through completing ordinary guild quests. They could only do so by completing advanced guild quests. However, advanced guild quests were very rare and limited in number. So, it would take a significantly longer time for a 2-star guild to accumulate 100,000 guild popularity. Even super guilds would need a long time to do so. Meanwhile, due to various factors, Zero Wing's popularity accumulation rate was currently on par with super guilds. According to Xueqi's estimates, it would take another month or so for Zero Wing to accumulate 100,000 popularity. However, now that Zero Wing had received an additional 200,000 popularity, it had fulfilled the condition to promote to a 3-star guild. A Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order? Xueqi looked at the bronze diamond-shaped token that had suddenly appeared in his bag. The token was emitting a faint, golden glow. It was much more powerful than the Silver Guild Residence Promotion Order he had obtained before. Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order promotes the star ranking of a guild residence that fulfills the required popularity by 1 star. Can be promoted up to a 4-star guild. What a powerful guild residence promotion order! Xueqi was astonished. As far as Xueqi knew, guild residence promotion orders were all graded. Meanwhile, different ranking promotion orders could be used on guilds of different star rankings. For example, in order to promote a 1-star guild into a 2-star guild, a 2-star promotion order would be required, while promotion to a 3-star guild would require a 3-star promotion order. However, the Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order was actually capable of promoting any guild between 1-star to 3-star status by 1 rank. There would be no need to search for promotion orders of specific rankings. Looking at the Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order, Xueqi considered saving it for when Zero Wing was upgrading its residence from 3-star to 4-star status. In God's domain, guild residence promotion orders were not easy to obtain. Aside from a rare few that could be obtained through adventuring out in the fields or opening treasure chests, the normal method of obtaining guild residence promotion orders was through raiding certain large-scale team dungeons. However, only by procuring the first clear of such dungeons would one have a 100% chance of receiving a guild residence promotion order. Afterward, the cleared dungeon would have less than a 1% chance of dropping the promotion order. This was also one of the reasons why the various large guilds were adamant about competing for the first clear of large-scale team dungeons. Aside from being able to raise their own guild's fame and influence, they could also quickly raise their guild's star ranking by obtaining first clear. If the first clear was taken away by another guild, it would become significantly more difficult to obtain a guild residence promotion order. This was especially true for the 3-star guild residence promotion order. This was something that only dropped in the hell mode of level 50 large-scale team dungeons. Moreover, such large-scale team dungeons were different from the dungeons that dropped 2-star promotion orders. In the latter's case, every major city would have one of them. For 3-star and above, however, there would only be one such large-scale team dungeon in every few, or even more than a dozen major cities. If the first clear of such a dungeon was secured by a guild, other guilds would have no choice but to continuously raid said large-scale team dungeon for their own promotion orders. Thus, the 3-star guild residence promotion order would cause the competition between guilds to become even more intense. In the future, guilds would have to struggle with not just other guilds in the same city, but guilds from other cities as well. As for the 4-star guild residence promotion order, competition for it would become even more frightening as each kingdom would only have 1 or 2 large-scale team dungeons that dropped it. While empires had a little more, these dungeons were still extremely limited. Excuse me, I want to promote the Zero Wing Guild. After giving the matter some thought, Xueqi immediately took out the Bronze Guild Residence Promotion Order and handed it over to the NPC administrator. The reason why players even bothered joining guilds was because guilds provided benefits that could help their members level up and improve their strength much more quickly. Hence, the faster a guild was promoted, the better it would be for the guild's future development. Lord Protector, may I know which guild residence you wish to promote to a 3-star residence? The administrator asked after receiving the promotion order. The guild residence in White River City, Xueqi said in a straightforward manner. White River City was Zero Wing's base camp. It was also extremely safe, as it was located in a major NPC city. Moreover, It wouldn't be long before White River City would be promoted to the next rank and bring many benefits to the players inhabiting it. Naturally, he had to prioritize promoting the residents there. As for the residences in Stone Forest Town and Lake Heart City, those would have to wait for another chance to appear in the future. Alright. Promoting a 2-star guild residence into a 3-star guild residence will require a 5,000 gold reconstruction fee, the administrator said. However, as a city protector, our association will offer you a 20% discount, so Lord Protector only needs to pay 4,000 gold. Shifeng took out another 4,000 gold without hesitation. After the handsome administrator confirmed that there were no problems, a series of system announcements rang out in Shifeng's ears. Star Moon Kingdom System Announcement. Congratulations to Zero Wing for becoming the first guild in Star Moon Kingdom to own a 3-star guild residence. Guild emblem upgraded to bronze rank. Rewarding guild with one set of basic defensive magic array, 1,500 gold in guild funds, and one employment center building order. White River City System Announcement. Congratulations to Zero Wing for becoming the first guild in White River City to own a 3-star guild residence. Rewarding guild with one training room promotion order. The system announcement repeated 3 times, echoing loudly in everyone's ears. What? A 3-star residence? That's impossible, right? Most guilds are just beginning to promote their residences to 2-star. How does Zero Wing already have a 3-star residence? Zero Wing is too amazing. As expected of Star Moon Kingdom's #1 guild. I must join Zero Wing. No matter what. The benefits of a 3-star residence will definitely be spectacular. The players throughout Star Moon Kingdom were stunned by the rewards stated in the system announcement. This was especially true for the members of the various large guilds. They were all greatly envious of Zero Wing. Zero Wing's guild emblem was directly upgraded to bronze rank. A guild emblem wasn't just the symbol of a guild. Similar to the insignia of lifestyle classes, the guild emblem also possessed some functions. A common guild emblem did not carry with it any functions at all. However, once a guild emblem reached bronze rank, it came prepared with some functions. A bronze guild emblem had 2 functions. The first function was a teleport ability. Even without a guild transfer scroll, guild members could directly teleport to any guild residence. There was no need to buy the guild transfer scroll of a specific guild residence. Not to mention, players could only carry one guild transfer scroll at a time, making it very inconvenient. The second function increased the attributes of guild members. As long as there were over 20 guild members within a 100-yard radius, the guild emblem would increase the wearer's maximum HP by 3% and attack power by 1%. Although the increase seemed minor, once players reached higher levels, even 1% could make a huge difference. This was especially true when players were raiding team dungeons. Less than a minute after the system announcement ended, news of Zero Wing obtaining a 3-star guild residence began spreading like wildfire. In just a short 10 minutes, whether it were the guilds in Star Moon Kingdom or the guilds in the neighboring kingdoms and empires, they all held an emergency guild meeting. At the same time, the various large guilds currently bartering for rare items in the dark auction also received news about the situation. What? Zero Wing has just obtained a 3-star guild residence. Phoenix Rain's eyes widened in shock as she read the message she just received. She simply could not believe this to be true. How could this be possible? Chapter 1179. General Trend. Under. Chapter 1179. General Trend. Big Sis Rain, what happened? Blue Phoenix asked when she noticed the strange expression on Phoenix Rain's face. I just received news stating that Zero Wing already has a 3-star guild residence now, Phoenix Rain said enviously. With this, Zero Wing is now the undisputed #1 guild of Star Moon Kingdom. Blue Phoenix was momentarily stunned when she heard this. Quickly she reacted and said, "How is this possible? Didn't they say that 3-star guild residence promotion orders can only be obtained from the hell mode of level 50 large-scale team dungeons?" Although there was only a single rank separating a 3-star guild residence and a 2-star guild residence, there was a qualitative difference between the two. It was similar to shops that were promoted from 2-star to 3-star status. 4 3-star shops, aside from having more special workshops, They also had the basic meditation rooms that were very beneficial towards the development of subclasses. In the case of a 3-star guild residence, the guild would receive a qualitative improvement on all its existing benefits. A 3-star guild residence would also be capable of constructing buildings that were not available to 2-star guild residences. Among them, there were 2 buildings of particularly significant importance. One of them was the Employment Center. Originally, the local NPCs would post quests in the quest area of the guild hall, and guild players were free to pick up any of them. Meanwhile, once a guild established its own employment center, all quests commissioned to the guild in the future would be placed in the employment center instead. In addition, the guild quests in the employment center weren't only limited to the local area. Certain quests would even involve other NPC cities, which would give rise to the number of advanced guild quests. However, these were still not the most important matters. Once a guild possessed its own employment center, it would also unlock large-scale guild quests such as a crusade against orcs, or assisting nearby kingdoms in battles against foreign races. The amount of EXP and coins one could gain from these quests was extraordinary. In addition, one could also obtain plenty of rare tools, weapons, and equipment. The other building was the training room. Unlike the Divine Colosseum's trial tower, which required players to blindly discover and learn combat techniques, the training room allowed players to receive the system's basic combat training from NPCs. This allowed players that had just joined the guild to grasp basic combat techniques, as well as skill utilization techniques, within a shorter period of time, thus allowing them to quickly go from being a new member to an elite member more quickly. It should be known that Zero Wing was a guild that walked the path of the elite. Currently, the guild only had around 100,000 elite members. Over half of its members had yet to reach the elite standard. However, once Zero Wing possessed the training room, the remaining members would be able to promptly become elites. It wouldn't be long before Zero Wing would have more than 200,000 elite members. With so many elite players, even first-rate guilds would barely be a match for Zero Wing. Meanwhile, this was under the assumption that Zero Wing did not expand and recruit new members. If the guild did a mass recruitment, Phoenix Rain did not dare to imagine how frightening the guild would become. However, unlike Phoenix Rain, who was feeling envious of Zero Wing, the large guilds in Starmoon Kingdom and the neighboring kingdoms were currently dying from anxiety. Previously, although Zero Wing was known as the #1 guild of Starmoon Kingdom, that was only a title. Rather than Zero Wing, these large guilds feared first-rate guilds even more. This was because with the number of elite and ordinary members Zero Wing possessed, the guild would only be able to occupy a limited number of locations in the kingdom. Now, however, things were different. Now that the guild had obtained a 3-star guild residence, whether it was the guild's elite member count or total member count, both would see an explosive increase soon. By then, Zero Wing would have enough manpower to occupy other NPC cities and capture more towns. Eventually, it would become a first-rate guild in the truest sense. Damn it! How did this happen? Why did Zero Wing suddenly obtain a 3-star residence? The various large guilds in Starmoon Kingdom were each suffering from a huge headache over this matter. Previously, they had been celebrating over the fact that Zero Wing had defeated the Blackwater Guild. After all, with Blackwater having suffered such severe losses, it was unable to expand its influence and control over the various major cities at all. Meanwhile, in Zero Wing's case, the guild did not have the required manpower to dominate and manage other NPC cities. This had given them an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. Ever since the war between Blackwater and Zero Wing, various locations in Starmoon Kingdom had become war zones, as the various large guilds all vied to take control of their own NPC city. However, the current situation had greatly exceeded the numerous large guilds' expectations. Inside Overwhelming Smile's residence in Maple City. Due to Zero Wing obtaining a 3-star guild residence, Overwhelming Smile was forced to hold an emergency meeting. Yulon, are you trying to betray Overwhelming Smile? Feng Xianyang screamed angrily as he smacked his desk. Just now, Yulon had actually had his subordinates transfer from Gale City and Twin Lion City to a border city on Starmoon Kingdom's western area. He had gone to great lengths in order to get Gale City and Twin Lion City up and running. Yet, shortly after he had built up some of his own foundations, without any warnings, Yulon had suddenly come and told him to go to a border city. Moreover, the city was a small one with a player population of around only 300,000. This was no different than stabbing a knife into his heart. This can't be helped. I believe you should have a greater understanding than I do on what kind of functions a 3-star residence possesses. Gale City and Twin Lion City are simply too close to White River City. Rather than waste time fighting against Zero Wing, it will be much better for you to focus your strength in a place that you can take complete control over. Furthermore, it is simply impossible to stop Zero Wing's rise now. The higher-ups have already agreed on this point. Hence, they are having you go to a city on the western border. That place is very close to the Bloodhoof Empire. Currently, we have already taken control of over half of the empire. In the future, when players reach higher levels, we'll be able to open a trade route between the Bloodhoof Empire and Star Moon Kingdom. Yulan was not affected by Feng Xuanyang's angry bellows at all. In reality, she even secretly felt gratitude towards Zero Wing. Due to Zero Wing's residence getting promoted to 3-star status this time, Underworld had finally decided to give up on taking control of Star Moon Kingdom and instead shifted to secretly developing its economy. Meanwhile, Yulan herself was transferred to Underworld's true headquarters, the Templar Empire, and was tasked with managing Underworld's trading firm. She could be considered to have truly set foot into Underworld's upper echelon now. When Feng Xianyang heard that this was an arrangement made by the higher-ups, his whole person seemed to age several years. It was obvious that Underworld no longer wished to waste time attempting to take control of Star Moon Kingdom. Meanwhile, aside from Overwhelming Smile, the various large guilds based in the eastern region of Star Moon Kingdom had also made similar arrangements. They all planned on shifting their focus towards the western region of the kingdom. As for the eastern region, they were naturally going to let Zero Wing develop it. Ha ha ha. The guild leader is simply too amazing. He's actually managed to have the various guilds in Star Moon Kingdom shift their focus towards the western region in just a short moment's time. With this, Zero Wing will have a much easier time taking control of the cities in the eastern region. Aqua Rose, who had just exited the inferior legendary treasure chest, was greatly excited when she received news of the latest developments. Originally, she had planned for Zero Wing to gradually whittle away at the various large guilds based in the eastern region of Star Moon Kingdom before eventually taking control of the cities here. However, the instant Shi Feng revealed the 3-star guild residents, these various large guilds all took the initiative to withdraw their forces without putting up a fight. Inside an NPC town within the vicinity of Star Moon City. Currently, this town had already been occupied by evil beasts. The town's surroundings were filled with level 60+ evil beasts. Among them, there was no lack of chieftain and lord-ranked monsters. Meanwhile, the town itself was also enveloped by a massive magic array, which gave off a frightening pressure. If Shi Feng was here right now, he would definitely find this pressure very familiar. This was due to the pressure being emitted by the magic array, having a strand of divine might mixed into it. Meanwhile, 2 players suddenly appeared outside this town. These 2 people were none other than Abandoned Wave and Laughing Drunkard. Zero Wing, enjoy your fun while you can. When Abandoned Wave received the report regarding Zero Wing, a cold smile appeared on his face. He then walked into the town enveloped by the massive magic array. Chapter 1180. Prototype Sacred Land. Under Chapter 1180. Prototype Sacred Land. White River City, Adventurers Association. When Shi Feng, who hid under a black cloak, descended the stairs from the second floor, he was greeted by a sea of players crowding the first floors. The majority of these players shared one similarity. They were all guild players. Moreover, these guild were all high-leveled with good equipment. What are these people trying to do? A newcomer, who had just reached level 10 and had come to report to the Adventurers Association, asked. Is there even a need to ask? They're all here to withdraw from their guilds. A level 30+ shield warrior explained from his seat near the entrance. Why? The explanation only increased the new player's curiosity. While it wasn't unusual to see players withdraw from their guilds, this was the first time he had seen so many people from different guilds at the same time. You're new, so it's expected that you don't know. They're leaving their original guilds to join Zero Wing, the shield warrior said enviously as he watched the various guild players. Zero Wing is on a roll. Its residence already has 3-star private rooms. If you rest in one of those rooms for 24 hours, you'll accumulate 30% of double EXP buff. Moreover, it has the employment center now. I heard that Zero Wing went all out, making sure it'll be stylish. The building has 2 floors. On the first, players can pick up ordinary and advanced guild quests, and the second floor allows players to pick up large-scale guild quests. The large-scale guild quests award far more than the advanced quests. Even elite members have a hard time picking up an advanced guild quest in other guilds. In Zero Wing, however, even ordinary members can pick one up. Once you become one of Zero Wing's elites, you can even pick up large-scale guild quests. As long as guild members have sufficient contribution points, they can also upgrade their guild emblem to bronze rank and get some bonus attributes. You're a newcomer, right? Now is the best time for you to join Zero Wing. I heard that as long as guild members are willing to spend some contribution points, you can receive guidance from NPCs in their new training room and learn basic combat techniques and skill utilization techniques. Those will help you become an expert quickly. The Shield Warrior's words immediately caught the attention of the various newcomers within the Adventurers Association. They were all new to God's domain, and they were completely new to the game's combat styles. As a result, they had a lot of trouble against monsters. Moreover, they had to learn the combat techniques on their own. When they saw players easily solo 2 or 3 common monsters simultaneously, they were jealous. Naturally, a location where they could improve their combat techniques would be tempting. May I know where I can apply to join Zero Wing? A beautiful, charming level 10 female cleric excitedly asked the Shield Warrior. In response, the Shield Warrior smiled as he pointed at a group of players that had just withdrawn from their old guilds and said, "That's simple. Just follow the players that just left their old guilds. They're all going to apply as well." When the several newcomers heard this, they immediately followed after the players that had just withdrawn from their guilds and left the Adventurers Association. Xueqi could not help his shock. He had never imagined that a 3-star guild residence would be such a powerful influence. It had only been a short time since he had upgraded Zero Wing's residence, yet so many elite players were leaving their old guilds to join his. What Xueqi didn't know was that a long line had already formed outside of Zero Wing's residence. These players were all there to apply for the recruitment test. Quite a few were even guild players from other cities. The crowd made it difficult for Zero Wing's members to enter and leave the residence. Moreover, this situation wasn't isolated to White River City. The same was happening in Stone Forest Town. Only, unlike the players in White River City, the majority of those applying to join Zero Wing in Stone Forest Town were independent players. These players weren't just applying to Zero Wing because the guild now had a 3-star residence. They were even more inspired by Stone Forest Town's massive transformation. Aside from the town's amazing mana density, Stone Forest Town had recently undergone major reconstruction. Far more merchant NPCs now visited the town. There was also the newly reopened battle arena. The town was simply too tempting. As long as they joined Zero Wing, even as an ordinary member, they could easily travel back to Stone Forest Town. Their leveling spots would no longer be limited to the Stone Claw Mountains. Moreover, they would have a shorter waiting time when entering the battle arena. To players that loved adventure and improving their combat techniques, becoming a member of Zero Wing was ideal. While Xueqi had been in the Adventurers Association, he had also implemented a new option for Stone Forest Town: the sale of private houses. When Stone Forest Town had been a basic town, it had simply been too small. Zero Wing barely had enough space for its own development, let alone selling precious land. However, things had changed. After its promotion to an intermediate town, Stone Forest Town grew to occupy several times more land than before. As part of his plan for the town's development, Xueqi had used some space to construct private housing. He would sell a small portion of these private houses to the public, while the remainder would be reserved for guild members. It was a kind of guild benefit. As long as one became an elite member, they would qualify to purchase a private house of their own. Only, they would have to do so with guild contribution points. Fortunately, they would enjoy lower prices than the houses sold to the public. Many of God's Domain's players dreamed of owning a private house, not to mention living in a mana-dense environment like Stone Forest Town. The private houses had already become a hot topic among Stone Forest Town's players. Zero Wing is so stingy. They're only selling 100 houses to the public. There are so many independent players in this town. How is this supposed to be enough for all of us? I don't know if there's going to be enough to go around, but what I do know is that Zero Wing is too fraudulent. Even the cheapest house costs 400 gold. This price is almost as much as an outer area shop in a minor NPC city. Even independent experts are lucky if they have 100 gold on hand. How could anyone afford such expensive houses? I know, right? However, our adventurer team is prepared to pool our funds to purchase one. This way, our guild will have a gathering point. We won't have to waste our time on hotels anymore. Your team is going to have an awesome time, then. As long as you become 2-star adventurers, you can purchase a fixed teleportation array and set it up in the house. You'll be able to transfer directly to your house. That's way better than joining Zero Wing. However, I'm betting that the large guilds are going to purchase most of these houses. That shouldn't be possible. Zero Wing has already stated that other guilds are not allowed to purchase houses. Moreover, the buyers to sign a contract with Zero Wing. Even if people from the various large guilds try to buy a house, they can't. As Xueqi relaxed in an advanced carriage, heading to the candlelight trading firm to store the bronze tablet in the warehouse, he received a call from Aqua Rose. Guild leader, Twilight Echo contacted me stating that they have something to discuss with you, Aqua Rose joyfully announced. Don't tell me Glorious Echo is looking for me? Xueqi frowned. He did not have a particularly good impression of Glorious Echo. However, he was rather grateful because, if not for him, Aqua Rose wouldn't have joined Zero Wing. No. The elders have already sacked Glorious Echo. One of my uncles is managing the guild temporarily, Aqua Rose said, shaking her head. All right then. I still have some matters to deal with, so have him wait in the residence for a while. Chapter 1181. New Overlord. Under. Chapter 1181. New Overlord. Storm Empire, Imperial Capital Storm City. Although the sky grew darker, the Imperial capital shone brightly. Players crowded the streets. Storm City's teleportation hall was particularly packed. Players flooded into the city, one group after another. It was far livelier than in White River City. At this moment, a group of players appeared in the teleportation magic array that was the size of half a basketball court. Although it was only a 20-man team, these players were all very high-leveled. The lowest among them was level 42, and the highest was level 44. As these players did not wear black cloaks to hide their levels, the instant they appeared, they attracted almost everyone's attention in the teleportation hall. Many stared at these players with a mixture of awe and fear. Everyone was curious about this powerful group's sudden appearance. After all, the current number 1 player on the Storm Empire's ranking list was only level 43. Moreover, that person had only recently reached level 43. The most unbelievable thing was that none of these players wore a guild emblem, proving that they were not from a guild, but independent players. If Xueqi were here to see this, he would definitely recognize this group. This team of 20 was none other than the Peak Adventurer Team Owl. The person leading the team was Owl's commander, White Knight. White Knight was already a level 44 ranger. Frozen Dream, the elementalist who stood beside him, had also reached level 44. Commander, this place is really lively. I think that there are as many people here as there are in Flame Dragon City. Frozen Dream, who wielded an icy blue crystal staff, said, slightly surprised as she surveyed the teleportation hall. Flame Dragon City was the Flame Dragon Empire's, one of the 4 great empires, imperial capital. The player population there far outstripped other empires' capitals. The Storm Empire wasn't particularly powerful. It was only on par with the Black Dragon Empire. Moreover, the empire occupied a relatively remote area. Logically, the city's prosperity shouldn't be a match for Black Dragon City. Yet the current commotion was shocking. At a glance, Frozen Dream could tell that practically every player in the teleportation hall was level 38 or above. Among these players, there were even level 40 and level 41 experts. Aside from the players' high levels, there were also a considerable number of guilds. From the various guild emblems Frozen Dream could see, at least 100 guilds had gathered here. Among them, quite a few were first-rate guilds. There should be nothing surprising about this. Have you forgotten why we have come? White Knight asked calmly, chuckling. Did the Nature Hall invite them? Frozen Dream quickly came to a realization. Not exactly. Only a small portion has actually received invites. The other guilds have simply taken the initiative to come here to express their goodwill. After all, the situation in the Storm Empire has changed. As for the independent players, I'm willing to bet that 80% of them are here to join the Nature Hall, White Knight said, shaking his head. They had come here because they had received an invite from the Nature Hall, a first-rate guild, to celebrate the guild's achievement of becoming Storm City's ruler. God's domain didn't have many empires. Until now, the Storm Empire's capital had been under the rule of the super first-rate guild, 9-Star family. However, nobody had expected the Nature Hall, which had an intense competition with Twilight Echo, to wage a violent war against the 9-Star family. This war had sparked due to the mineral vein beneath a particular town. Everyone had thought that the Nature Hall had lost its mind to battle the 9-Star family. It was madness. In the end, however, the 9-Star family suffered a devastating defeat, and the Nature Hall had taken possession of the town. No one had expected this outcome, either. Although the 9-Star family was a relatively weak super first-rate guild, at the end of the day, it was still a bona fide super first-rate guild. No first-rate guild could afford to provoke it. When the war had ended, everyone believed that the 9-Star family would exact its revenge on the Nature Hall. Shockingly, however, the 9-Star family had withdrawn from Storm City. With the 9-Star family's retreat, the Nature Hall had grown stronger with each passing day. It had even shocked other first-rate guilds. In the end, nobody could stop the Nature Hall from taking control of Storm City. Meanwhile, today was the day that the Nature Hall took full control. Today, it became the #1 guild in the Storm Empire. As Owl had done some business with the Nature Hall in the past, the adventurer team had received an invite to the guild celebration. As soon as White Knight and the others left the teleportation hall, a group of shield warriors and guardian knights wearing uniform equipment appeared before them. A strict-looking man stood at the lead of this group. The man looked to be in his 30s and had a cross-shaped knife scar across his face. He was fully geared in silver armor and carried a mountain axe that was as tall as himself on his back. The man's level was also impressive. He was actually level 42. "Hello, Mr. White. I am Abyssal Thunder. Guild Leader Universe sent me to receive you. Your carriages have already been prepared," Abyssal Thunder said as he pointed at the advanced carriages parked beside him. The passers-by on the street were stupefied by this scene. Who are these people? Amazing! The Nature Hall security team is actually welcoming them personally. Even first-rate guilds don't get such treatment. Level 44. Could they be the overlords of some other city? When the passers-by saw White Knight and the others climb into the advanced carriages, they were jealous. As the Nature Hall celebrated its success, several strangers appeared before Zero Wings residents in White River City. These people were all very high-leveled, with the lowest among them being level 41. They all wore level 40 dark gold equipment, becoming the envy of those lining up to apply to Zero Wing. Brother Spring, Zero Wing is astounding. I can't even see the end of the line of elite players. I'm afraid that it won't be long before Zero Wing's elite member count even surpasses Twilight Echo. A robust, tanned level 41 shield warrior exclaimed when he saw the crowd at the main entrance. That's right, the middle-aged man named Spring Echo said, sighing ruefully. Nobody could have imagined that, within such a short time, the little girl that left Twilight Echo had managed to develop a small, unknown guild into its current state. The family's old bastards were particularly stupefied. To elevate the family's strength, those old bastards had tried to force Aqua Rose into a marriage with Brilliant War God. Now, however, Aqua Rose was getting by even better than those old bastards. If not for Aqua Rose being Zero Wing's vice guild leader, they wouldn't be here to meet the mysterious guild leader today. Following which, Spring Echo led the 4 people behind him into Zero Wing's residence. After entering the guild hall, Spring Echo was flabbergasted by what he saw. The players occupying the first-floor hall were all level 36 and above. Moreover, he could tell that the level 36 and level 37 players were only ordinary members. However, this was not the reason for Spring Echo's shock. Rather, he was surprised by the equipment these players wore. The majority of these players were equipped with level 35 secret silver equipment, with the most inferior being level 35 mysterious iron equipment. As for the elite players that had reached level 40, they actually wore level 40 fine gold equipment. Not even Twilight Echo could say the same. As Spring Echo and his group quietly waited inside the reception room, Aqua Rose entered. The instant Aqua Rose stepped inside the room, Spring Echo and the others astounded once more. At this moment, Aqua Rose did not wear a black cloak to hide her level and equipment, so everyone saw that she had already reached level 48. Chapter 1182. The Intimidating Zero Wing. Under Chapter 1182. The Intimidating Zero Wing. How did she reach such a high level? Spring Echo was thoroughly shocked. Level 48. Aqua Rose could definitely rank number 1 on the ranking list in any kingdom or empire in God's domain. The current known highest-leveled player in the Storm Empire was only level 43. In addition, Aqua Rose's equipment was extraordinary. Ordinary experts might not recognize the woman's equipment, but as the acting guild leader of Twilight Echo, Spring Echo knew full well what Aqua Rose was wearing right now. The Tier 1 set equipment for Cursemancers, Evil Soul. They had recently encountered Tier 1 set equipment as well. It had been recognized as only inferior to epic set equipment below level 50. While a Tier 1 set equipment's basic attributes were only slightly superior to a Dark Gold set equipment of the same level, the equipment's true power lay in its high compatibility with players, allowing the wearers to exert higher combat power. As a set equipment, its set effects were highly compatible with the class it was meant for, further enhancing the class's strengths. However, such a good set equipment was not that easy to obtain. Even a veteran first-rate guild like Twilight Echo had not managed to collect a complete set after investing a ton of manpower and resources. Yet, now, Aqua Rose wore one. Uncle Spring, I'm sorry for the long wait. The guild leader has just returned. I'll bring you to meet him now. Aqua Rose simply smiled as she looked at everyone's shocked expressions. She then led Spring Echo to the guild leader's office. While Aqua Rose led the way, the experts behind Spring Echo spoke in hushed tones. Brother Spring, your niece is simply amazing. I'm afraid that even Twilight Echo's number 1 expert, Dark Wave, can't match her now. A Tier 1 set equipment. If those elders knew about this, they'd die from envy. Despite investing all that effort into collecting Tier 1 set equipment, even now, we only have 3 pieces of our most complete set. Spring Echo could only smile bitterly in response to his subordinate's discussion. What else could he say? Before coming to Zero Wing, he had prepared himself mentally. After all, Zero Wing's battle records were incredible. This was especially true for the latest one. Not only had Zero Wing annihilated Blackwater, which had the Blackwater Corporation's support, but it had also suppressed the Super Guild Pantheon. If Zero Wing did not have a certain background, how could it possibly defeat such powerful enemies? Now, not only did Zero Wing control the gold mine that was Stone Forest Town, but it also had a 3-star guild residence. Although the guild might not be a match for Twilight Echo when it came to the number of towns and cities it controlled, in terms of potential, Zero Wing was leaps and bounds above Twilight Echo. Very quickly, under Aqua Rose's lead, Spring Echo reached the guild leader's office on the top floor. Xueqi, Gentle Snow, and Fire Dance all waited in the office. What kind of place is this? When Spring Echo saw the room's interior, he froze. Xueqi was currently wearing a black cloak, so he could not see the swordsman's level. However, Gentle Snow and Fire Dance, who stood beside him, were not wearing their cloaks. He could clearly see that Gentle Snow was level 47, while Fire Dance was level 48. As for the weapons and equipment the two women wore, although they had hidden the items' glow effects, Spring Echo could tell that they were monster-like experts from the women's frightening auras. Moreover, from the information Twilight Echo had collected on Zero Wing, he knew that both Gentle Snow and Fire Dance had reached the rumored realm and become true peak experts. Only now, upon meeting the women in person, did he realize how massive the gap was between them. Spring Echo felt as if he had just entered a monster's nest and his life were no longer under his control. If Gentle Snow and Fire Dance wanted to kill him and his subordinates right now, Spring Echo wouldn't bother to resist. He knew full well that experts like himself and his subordinates could not even serve as a warm-up for these women. Please sit. Xueqi gestured to the chair before his desk. He was utterly satisfied with how effectively Gentle Snow and Fire Dance had shocked Spring Echo and his companions. This was an act to help Aqua Rose increase her bargaining chips and influence in her family. I heard that Twilight Echo has some business to discuss. May I know what that business is? Guild leader Black Flame, I'll get straight to the point. Twilight Echo has discovered a mine in the Storm Empire. However, with only our guild's strength, I'm afraid we can't secure that mine. Hence, Twilight Echo wishes to cooperate with Zero Wing and operate the mine together. As for the profits, we'll split them 50-50. Spring Echo understood that Twilight Echo could hold no secrets from Xueqi. After all, Aqua Rose was here. However, it was also precisely because of Aqua Rose that Twilight Echo had sought out Zero Wing to cooperate. This is interesting. There's a mine that even you guys can't handle? Xueqi found the revelation somewhat surprising. No matter what was said or done, Twilight Echo was a veteran first-rate guild. The Storm Empire was already famed for its mineral production. There were plenty of mines throughout the empire, so much so that first-rate guilds had no reason to compete with each other. What if I tell you that it produces energy ore? Spring Echo asked, smiling. Are you sure? The news stunned Xueqi. Energy ore. That was an even higher-ranked material than Raven's Manatite Oregon. While players had a certain chance of obtaining magic crystals when mining Manatite ore, there was an even greater chance to obtain magic crystals when mining energy Oregon. Moreover, energy ore was an extremely rare mineral that had many uses. Currently, a stack of energy ore could sell for roughly 2 gold. If sold in an area where minerals were scarce, one could easily sell a stack for 3 gold. The high demand was due to energy ore's 2 main purposes. The first regarded forging, since it could increase forging success rate. The second was in engineering, where it could be used to produce core components in engineering tools. Hence, energy ore was expensive. Normally, players could only harvest some scattered ore. No one had found a mineral vein that produced it. I can assure of this, Spring Echo responded seriously. I can agree to work with you. However, I want a 30-70 split. 70 to Zero Wing and 30 to you. Moreover, the nearby town must be placed under Zero Wing's control. Xueqi proposed his conditions after giving the matter some thought. When everyone inside the room heard Xueqi's conditions, they could not help but gasp. Even Aqua Rose hadn't expected Xueqi to be so demanding. Guild leader Black Flame, aren't you going a little overboard? Despite Spring Echo being a well-mannered person, even he could not help his growing anger. He felt like Xueqi were trying to toy with him, rather than negotiate. Chapter 1183. Value of an Energy Vein. Under Chapter 1183. Value of an Energy Vein. The rage in Spring Echo's eyes lasted for a long while. Seeing as Xueqi was intent on remaining silent, he could not help but take a deep breath and turn to Aqua Rose, hoping that his niece could talk some sense into her guild leader. If possible, Twilight Echo didn't want anybody else having a hand in the energy mine. However, the energy mine was simply too eye-catching. Moreover, with the nature hall rapidly growing stronger and the long-time rivalry between the two guilds, it was only a matter of time before the hall took action against Twilight Echo. Hence, they had decided to seek cooperation with Zero Wing. The first reason for this decision was the energy mine's defense. The second reason was that they could pull Zero Wing onto the same boat. The Nature Hall wouldn't go all out against the two guilds for fear of incurring heavy losses. Spring Echo had already investigated the energy vein and was certain it was one of the mineral veins that could produce magic crystals. A large stock of magic crystals would help improve the guild's overall strength. Moreover, the various large guilds were more willing to use magic crystals to trade for weapons and equipment. However, before Aqua Rose could say anything, Xueqi opened his mouth and spoke again. These conditions are my bottom line. If you feel that they are inappropriate, you are welcome to choose other partners. Guild leader. Aqua Rose hadn't expected Xueqi to be this determined. Not only had Xueqi asked for 70% of the mine's profits, but he also wanted full control over the mining town. No sane guild would agree to that. Currently, Twilight Echo's situation in the Storm Empire did not look too good. If properly negotiated, Zero Wing could secure 60% of the mine's profits. Obtaining the mining town, however, should be impossible. Nobody would easily hand over a town they struggled to obtain. Aqua Rose wasn't the only person shocked. Even Gentle Snow was somewhat surprised. Twilight Echo's offer was a good thing for Zero Wing. Even without taking control of the town, the magic crystal income would boost the guild's development. Although Zero Wing now had a 3-star guild residence and the training room, at the end of the day, the training room only taught players combat basics. If one wished to become an expert, they still needed the battles in the trial tower. Guild leader Black Flame, Twilight Echo is willing to give you 70% of the mine's profits at most. As for the town, we will not part with it. Spring Echo believed that Xueqi wanted to intimidate him. After considering Zero Wing's current situation, eventually, he chose to take a step back. It seems Twilight Echo still doesn't understand the importance of an energy vein. Xueqi could not help but sigh. Forget it. If you don't want to hand over the town, our discussion ends here. In any case, the town still has its protection period. Even if other guilds want it, they can't do anything against it. Return for now, and consider my offer. After saying so, Xueqi had Fire Dance dismiss Spring Echo and his subordinates away. Even as Spring Echo left the room, he couldn't figure out what had just happened. Despite his generosity, Xueqi had no intentions of negotiating with him. He even doubted that Xueqi truly understood the energy vein's value. After seeing Spring Echo depart, Gentle Snow asked, "Guild leader, is the town really that valuable?" Zero Wing was already stretched thin with managing Stone Forest Town and the several NPC cities they were based in. Even if Zero Wing obtained another highly valuable town, they couldn't do anything with it. After all, a town's construction and development demanded a lot of manpower and resources. The town itself isn't particularly valuable. The true value lies in the energy vein. Only, the vein is far more valuable than Twilight Echo can imagine. If they want to defend the energy vein successfully, Zero Wing needs to control the town. Otherwise, even if we work with Twilight Echo, defending the energy vein will be impossible. If that's the case, we might as well stay out of it, Xueqi said, shaking his head. That was an energy vein they talking about. It was far more valuable than a manatite vein. A single manatite vein had already forced Raven, one of the 6 great dark guilds, to go all out to defend it. Even Raven wouldn't be able to secure an energy vein. In the past, every energy vein had sparked an intense war. In these wars, first-rate guilds were little more than cannon fodder. Yet, Twilight Echo thought that they could defend an energy vein with the strength of 2 guilds. It was wishful thinking. If it were possible to obtain 50% of an energy vein's profits by contributing manpower and resources, Xueqi would raise both his hands and legs to volunteer. However, God's domain was a far crueler place than Spring Echo assumed. He had only dared to agree with Spring Echo because he had 3 trump cards. The first was the 4 Towers of Elements. He had the designs for the towers in his hand. As long as they had the materials, they could construct the towers to defend the town. The second was Phoenix Rain. Phoenix Rain was a pavilion master in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Dragging her into the fray would deter others from joining the fight. The third was the Secret Pavilion. He had worked with the Secret Pavilion frequently. Meanwhile, the Secret Pavilion was a transcendental existence in God's domain. It was even more of a deterrence than the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. As long as the town was protected by the 4 Towers of Elements and had the backing of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Secret Pavilion, other superpowers and first-rate guilds would have to think twice before moving against the town. In fact, with how much manpower and resources he would have to invest to have a chance of defending the energy vein, he was only willing to give Twilight Echo 30% of the profits due to his consideration for Aqua Rose. Of course, if Zero Wing were sufficiently powerful and could afford to station 1 million elite members and over 10,000 expert players to defend the town, it might be able to occupy the vein itself. However, that wasn't possible right now. Although Xueqi's comment had been simple, Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose quickly understood his reasoning. Hence they said no more. It was common knowledge that great wealth often attracted disaster. They hadn't imagined that the energy vein was so valuable. Brother Spring, what do we do now? A level 41 berserker asked after noticing Spring Echo's silence. Zero Wing's asking price is simply too high. We can't negotiate with them. They had come here today to negotiate cooperation. However, instead of gaining Zero Wing's help, the guild had chased them out. What else can we do? We have to report to the other elders, word for word. We'll let them decide. In any case, I'm too lazy to bother with this. If I had known something like this would happen, I would never have agreed to become acting guild leader, to begin with. Spring Echo's mood deflated as he rolled his eyes at the brawny man beside him. Following which, Spring Echo retrieved a return scroll and departed from White River City. Elsewhere, Xueqi used the teleportation array in the residence's basement to teleport to the savage wildland. He was prepared to set out towards the Sea of Death. He handed the rest of the guild's matters to Aqua Rose and Gentle Snow. As Xueqi left White River City, inside Stone Ape Forest within Starmoon City's region, a 20-man team of level 40 elite players fought a level 43 Stone Ape chieftain. Increase your firepower. The boss is almost dead. The level 41 ranger leading the team commanded excitedly. When the Stone Ape chieftain had less than 10% HP remaining, the team heard an agonizing scream from the back. Everyone instinctively turned towards its source. Grand. The ranger shuddered when he saw the dried mummy of his teammate. This was simply too fast. In the second between the scream and when the team had turned to look, their cleric had died. How did he die? The team members couldn't help their curiosity. Is it the chieftain's skill? As everyone believed this to be the case, a shadow flashed past the team. Suddenly, another scream echoed throughout the area. It's a monster ambush. Be careful. The ranger warned his teammates. However, as soon as he had said so, several more shadows flashed past their group, killing his teammates, one after another. Only those who reacted quickly and activated their life-saving skills managed to survive and caught a glimpse at the shadows' true appearance. These black shadows were all humanoid monsters. However, a single horn grew from their heads, and their entire bodies were covered in pitch-black scales. Moreover, when these monsters looked at their team, they looked like hunters toying with their prey. Run! When the ranger saw this, he fully understood that they were no match for these monsters. However, although he made the correct decision, they could not escape their fates. A short moment later, these one-horned monsters slaughtered everyone on the team. Ha ha ha! These humanoid monsters really are astounding. I wonder if another one will emerge from these players? After the 20-man team died, a person wandered out of the dense forest. This person radiated a sinister aura, incompatible with the surrounding environment. This person's skin was dark gray, and a blood-red magic array had been imprinted between his eyebrows. This person did not appear human at all. If Xueqi were here, he would definitely recognize this creature as none other than Blackwater's guild leader, Abandoned Wave. Chapter 1184. Naval Empire. Under. Chapter 1184. Naval Empire. Please don't disappoint me. Abandoned Wave slowly walked up to one of the corpses. He then took a dark gray crystal ball from his bag. A sinister glow flashed in the crystal center, making it look like an eyeball. Just looking at it would give someone the creeps. Abandoned Wave then began to chant an incantation. In the next moment, blood-red mist emerged from the crystal ball, gradually seeping into the corpse. After a short moment, the player's corpse began to move. However, as Abandoned Wave finished the final verse, the dried mummy exploded into a blood-red mist. In the blink of an eye, the crystal reabsorbed the mist. Damn it! These people are too weak. Abandoned Wave stomped his feet in frustration. He then opened his system map and looked through it carefully. It seems that I'll have to go elsewhere to find experts. I recall that place being one of the high-resource maps the Star Alliance occupies. There should be quite a number of experts there. I'll use you guys to test my new powers. Saying so, Abandoned Wave summoned a giant, two-headed wolf. He rode it towards the Sunset Hills, which was only a short distance away from Stone Ape Forest. Storm Empire, Twilight Echoes Guild Residence. Spring, so you're saying that if we don't hand over the town's management rights to Zero Wing won't agree to work with us. Zero Wing is playing us for fools. Do they really think that Twilight Echo needs their help to defend a town? I've always said that Zero Wing is unreliable. Rather than working with Zero Wing, we should invest more in the town's defense. In any case, we have some time before the town's protection period ends. Moreover, We have the area around the energy vein under our control. Even if the Nature Hall wants to take it from us, it won't be that easy for them to steal in our territory. However, we cannot underestimate the Nature Hall, either. I've just received a report stating that they have recruited a large number of elite players during their celebration. They have also found many powerful independent players. I'm not sure what methods the Nature Hall has used, but they've convinced many powerful adventurer teams to join them as well. Even if Twilight Echo and 7th Street work together, we are still no match for the Nature Hall. Some major corporation must be supporting the Nature Hall from the shadows. We need to be more careful from now on. Since the situation has reached this point, let's give up on negotiating with Zero Wing and focus on the energy vein. As long as we enhance the town's defenses, with our geographical advantage, even the Nature Hall will have to think twice before they try anything. Twilight Echo's various elders unanimously agreed that they would not satisfy Zero Wing's greed. Meanwhile, Xueqi reached the edge of the Sea of Death aboard his swift dragon speedboat. Players recognized the Sea of Death as a forbidden land. However, they also called it the Garden of Eden. This was due to the various opportunities that existed alongside the dangers. In the past, countless players that craved adventure had come to this sea zone. Among them, a few had become famous experts due to fortuitous encounters. Before Xueqi entered the Sea of Death, however, he could see massive crashing waves and hear fierce roaring. He immediately knew that sea monsters were the cause of the phenomena. The undeveloped Sea of Death really is dangerous. Xueqi was slightly astonished as he watched the rising waves in the distance. Although he did not know the sea monsters' appearances or numbers, judging by the water's movement, he could tell that there were quite a few ahead. If he took the risk and continued forward, there was an 80% to 90% chance that he would die. The swift dragon speedboat did not improve his chances. Unlike the monsters on land, sea monsters all had extremely high HP. They normally had 3 to 5 times more than land monsters of the same rank and level. Including the geographical advantage, even a Lord-ranked sea monster could easily annihilate a team of 100 elite players. If 5 or more sea monsters occupied this route, it would be inaccessible for players. With so many sea monsters in one location, a boss rank existence must be present. A boss in this area would be at least a great lord. On land, monsters of such rank shouldn't be provoked, much less at sea. Without a fleet of ships, players would have no choice but to take the long way around. By Xueqi's estimation, there should be over 10 sea monsters ahead. With so many, it was possible that a Grand Lord-ranked sea monster was present. Although the swift dragon speedboat was powerful, it would be nothing more than an appetizer for a Grand Lord. While Xueqi plotted a different path into the Sea of Death, he discovered a fleet of ships heading towards the sea monsters. It was clear that these players were looking for a raid. A fleet consisted of at least 30 ships. Of course, fishing boats did not count. The fleet Xueqi watched consisted of over 100 ordinary speedboats and numerous advanced speedboats. There were even a few bronze speedboats in the lead. As the fleet gradually approached the sea monsters, Xueqi got a clear view of the situation through the swift dragon speedboat's telescope. The 4 bronze speedboats in the lead had been decorated with the image of an aqua-blue spear. This image was the fleet symbol. These symbols weren't just for show. They had a similar function, although significantly weaker, to a suppression magic array. Normally, players could only gain such a symbol after registering as a fleet with the Adventurers Association. The Freedom Alliance? Xueqi was surprised when he saw that blue spear. Why are they here? The Freedom Alliance was not a guild. Rather, it was an organization of various small guilds and adventurer teams. Of course, not just any guild or adventurer team qualified to join the alliance. They needed to meet certain criteria to do so. In such a way, the Freedom Alliance combined the powers of various naval guilds and adventurer teams to form a superpower at sea. In the past, the Freedom Alliance had been even stronger than some super guilds' naval forces. However, the Freedom Alliance hadn't been active in the Sea of Death. Instead, it had occupied the Sea's End. The Sea's End was many times larger than the Sea of Death. It was even considered a naval empire. The Sea's End housed cities and alliances that were comprised of numerous islands. The playstyle there wasn't as intense as on land. Rather, competition between players there wasn't particularly intense. However, the area was far more dangerous than on the mainland. Moreover, Players that lived in the sea's end had been inseparable from naval combat since the moment they joined God's domain. Hence, when it came to combat at sea, players from the sea's end were far more powerful than even the experts of the various large guilds. They're just barging in? Xueqi was momentarily stunned as he watched the fleet charge towards the sea monsters. Chapter 1185. Marine King Creature. Under. Chapter 1185. Marine King Creature. What are they trying to do? Xueqi was at a loss when he saw the Freedom Alliance's fleet charge into the sea monster group without hesitation. Logically, as veteran sailors, the Freedom Alliance should not have made such a rookie mistake. Sea monsters were different from monsters on land. Not only were they massive, but they were also capable of influencing the battlefield's terrain. They also had wide-range attacks, making it very difficult for players to dodge or block. As a result, fighting sea monsters was many times more challenging than monsters on land. Normally, a fleet had to distribute tasks and prepare before battle. In battles against multiple sea monsters, the ship's positions were very important. Players would pay for mistakes in blood. Players would be asking for a beating if they simply charged into battle. In the majority of land battles, at most, players would pay for mistakes with their lives. However, a mistake out at sea would destroy their ships. Even if the ship survived after being struck by sea monsters, the ship would lose durability. When a ship's durability fell to a certain point, like weapons and equipment, it could no longer be repaired. Not to mention, the price of repairing a ship was much higher than weapons and equipment. In addition, repairing a ship was more time-consuming. However, as Xueqi's curiosity about the Freedom Alliance's actions grew, the Alliance's players discovered Xueqi's Swift Dragon speedboat. Commander, there's a speedboat starboard side. By the looks of it, the speedboat should be considerably high quality. Should we chase it away first before the battle? A level 41 male elementalist in dark blue mage robes asked a robust man in a respectful tone. This robust leopard of a man was none other than the Freedom Alliance's 3rd Fleet commander, Passing Monarch. Practically everyone in the sea's end had heard of this man. Ignore it. It's just a speedboat. It won't affect our operation. If it tries to pull something, we'll deal with it then, Passing Monarch casually commanded as he glanced at the Swift Dragon speedboat. All right. Enough. We'll proceed according to plan. They had a total of 120 ships. Among them, 24 were advanced speedboats. In addition, they had 4 bronze speedboats. A single speedboat could not disturb their operation. If they wanted to, they could sink it with little more than a thought. Understood. Immediately, the fleet spread out and gradually circled the group of sea monsters. Roar! The sea monsters soon noticed the Freedom Alliance's fleet. They began to surface, revealing their true appearances. Among the sea monsters, one was a massive sea serpent king. The serpent's head alone was the size of a 3-story building. When the serpent roared, waves rose and smashed against the Freedom Alliance's ships. Aside from this sea serpent king, which was hundreds of meters long, there were also many one-horned sea serpents, which were roughly 60 to 70 meters in length. If ordinary players saw this, they would most likely pale from fright. Sea Serpent King, Marine King Creature, King-Class Sea Monster, Great Lord. Level 52. HP 160, 000, 000/160, 000, 000. One-Horned Sea Serpent, Sea Monster, Chieftain. Level 50. HP 18, 000, 000/18, 000, 000. A King-Class Sea Monster. When Xueqi finally saw the sea monster's true appearances, he was shocked. Sea monsters fell into different categories than monsters on land as they had additional classifications based on their life ratings. The higher a sea monster's life rating was, the stronger they were than other sea monsters of the same rank and level. A king sea monster, for example, was a boss among bosses. Normally, sea monsters could be categorized as ordinary, leader dash, and king class. There were also sea monsters of the legendary Titan class. The king class's life rating could already rival that of the archaic species on land. Not only were such sea monsters extremely rare, but they were also insanely strong. As for Titan-class sea monsters, they were the equivalent of ferocious beasts like the 9-headed magic snake, whose life rating was even higher than ordinary dragons. Even Tier 6 gods would have difficulty killing ferocious beasts. The Sea Serpent King before him was a king-class existence. Despite it being only a great lord, it was more than capable of annihilating an entire fleet by itself. That's right, annihilation. Normally, king-class sea monsters only lived in extremely dangerous sea zones. They didn't usually show up in places like this. As Xueqi considered steering his ship away from this area, the Sea Serpent King pointed its head at the sky and roared. Dark clouds then began to gather, covering the sky. As expected of a king-class sea monster, it is already capable of using a domain despite being a great lord? Xueqi's expression twisted as he watched the sky. He was familiar with the move the Sea Serpent King had just used. The skill was called Weather Control, and as its name suggested, it allowed the Great Lord to control an area's weather. In the blink of an eye, waterspouts formed, one after another, enclosing the area and cutting off players' escape routes. Unless players wanted to risk their lives and sacrifice their ships, there would be no retreat. This was also one of the reasons that fleets would suffer annihilation after encountering king-class sea monsters. However, as if they had predicted this development, the Freedom Alliance's scattered ships began to activate magic arrays. Together, 100 speedboats formed a massive blue magic array that enveloped the zone, following which, 2 more similar magic arrays appeared, overlapping. In the next moment, arcs of blue lightning descended, limiting the sea monster's movements. What a powerful threefold magic barrier! Xueqi was stunned when he saw the fleet suppress the Sea Serpent King's movements. Normally, magic arrays capable of suppressing king-class sea monsters were intermediate rank at the very minimum. With every additional layer a magic array possessed, its strength would be increased by 1-fold. As this was a 3-fold magic array, its strength tripled. As Xueqi watched, the Freedom Alliance's players began to move. Among them, 100 ships maintained the magic array, while the remaining 20 ships circled and attacking the sea monsters. Naval battles were different from land battles. Due to sea monsters' wide-range attacks, players couldn't dodge with their own movement speed. Hence, they needed to rely on their ships to avoid the sea monsters' attacks. If an attack were truly unavoidable, the ship's MTs would meet the attack head-on. Meanwhile, players had to rely on ranged classes and their ship's attack power. This was also why ships were more important than experts at sea. The 20 ships madly bombarded the Sea Serpent King and one-horned sea serpents. Due to the magic array's suppression, both the Great Lord and the Chieftain's mobility was limited. With the Freedom Alliance's high-quality ships, avoiding the sea monsters' attacks was relatively easy. Even if an occasional attack struck their ships, the MTs on board received most of the damage, significantly reducing the ship's durability loss. The only troublesome foe was the Sea Serpent King. Fortunately, the Freedom Alliance's fleet was very strong. The 4 bronze speedboats were responsible for tanking the Great Lord. Bronze speedboats possessed a certain damage reduction capability. Only after the ship reduced the initial damage would players receive the attack. If advanced speedboats received one of the Sea Serpent King's attacks, the MTs on board would die instantly. Under the constant stream of cannon fire and ranged attacks, the chieftain-ranked one-horned sea serpents quickly died off. Eventually, only the Sea Serpent King remained. However, the Great Lord still possessed over 100 million HP. The more damage the Sea Serpent King received, the more powerful its attacks became. It also grew faster as the battle progressed. It was obvious that the Great Lord had adapted slightly to the magic array's suppression. Originally, after 5 MTs split the damage from an attack, each MT would only lose around 1/3 of their HP. Now, however, the MTs would lose half of their HPs instantly. If the Sea Serpent King dealt 2 consecutive attacks, the MTs would be annihilated. Increase the healing. If your mana falls below 25%, use a mana recovery potion immediately. Old Wizard. Hold on for a little longer. I'm going to give this little snake a big one. Passing Monarch commanded when he realized the Sea Serpent King's attacks were growing more aggressive. Leave it to me, Old Wizard. The captain of the ship currently tanking the Sea Serpent King confirmed and nodded. However, as soon as he said so, the Sea Serpent King spread its jaws, a large amount of elemental mana gathering in its mouth. In the next moment, It spat a beam, sweeping across over half of the battlefield. As the beam struck, 3 advanced speedboats were crippled. As for the other 5 advanced speedboats that were struck, their durability dropped to below 50%. As for the 2 bronze speedboats that had received the attack, they fared slightly better as they hadn't lost a single player. Unfortunately, the ship's durability had fallen by 1/5. Chapter 1186. Dragon Cannon. Under. Chapter 1186. Dragon Cannon. With a single move, the Sea Serpent King had crippled 3 of the 20 attacking ships, killing all 20 players aboard each ship. In addition, 5 other advanced speedboats would crumble if they received 1 more hit, while 2 bronze speedboats had suffered relatively significant damage. The Freedom Alliance members were stunned. So, this is a king-class sea monster? Passing Monarch's expression darkened as he looked at the Sea Serpent King. Change of plans. Tank it with the Tier 3 summoned creatures. Everyone else, attack the boss. The Sea Serpent King was far stronger than he had initially expected. As the Serpent King shrugged off the threefold magic array's effects, the Great Lord would annihilate them all if it used that large-scale destructive skill a few more times. The longer they dragged this battle out, the more unfavorable the situation became for them. Hence, they had no choice but to use their trump card. As soon as Passing Monarch gave the command, the level 42 summoner beside him took out a Tier 3 summoning scroll and activated it. The astute Sea Serpent King abruptly turned its head towards Passing Monarch's bronze speedboat, a glimmer of ridicule and disdain flashing in its golden eyes. It swiped its massive tail at the speedboat. The Great Lord's attack had a wide range and was extremely fast, making it impossible for the speedboat to evade in time. Seeing this, Passing Monarch shouted in panic, "Activate the strongest defense." Suddenly, a light blue magic barrier formed around the bronze speedboat. At the same time, the ship's 5 MTs activated their life-saving skills and moved forward to receive the descending tail. Boom! The collision created a tidal wave, climbing over a dozen meters into the sky, and sent the bronze speedboat flying over 30 yards away. As for the 5 level 41 and level 42 MTs, they had been smashed into the deck, their HPs decreasing by 50%. As for the bronze speedboat's condition, it fared slightly better as it only lost 34 out of its 400 durability. It's too strong. The players maintaining the magic array could not help but shudder when they saw this. This was definitely the strongest sea monster they had ever faced. That was a bronze speedboat they were talking about. Despite Passing Monarch's speedboat having activated its defensive magic array and 5 MTs sharing some of the damage, the bronze speedboat had lost so much durability from one of the Sea Serpent King's normal attacks. If an advanced speedboat had received the attack, the speedboat would have lost at least half its durability. However, these players weren't ready to give up. They still had a trump card they hadn't used yet. As the Sea Serpent King's attack came to an end, an over 20-meter-tall leopard appeared on the water's surface. The leopard was entirely blue and arcs of electricity wrapped around its body. This was none other than the Tier 3 summoned creature Thundercloud Leopard. Although they were currently out at sea, the Thundercloud Leopard was one of the few summoned creatures that could fly. It might not be as strong as other Tier 3 summoned creatures, but its flight granted it a considerable advantage over sea monsters. This was also why Passing Monarch was confident enough to challenge the Sea Serpent King. All speedboats, distance yourselves from the boss. Attack with your cannons only. Passing Monarch commanded. At the end of the day, players' attack range was limited to 40 yards. Even with the aid of certain special tools, they could, at most, extend their attack range to 50 yards. To colossal sea monsters like the Sea Serpent King, 50 yards was nothing. However, speedboats were different. Even normal cannons had a range of over 500 yards. Even a king-class sea monster would have difficulty reaching targets at such a distance. As long as the Thundercloud Leopard tanked, the boss should not target enemies that were too far away. Even if it did with such a long distance, they would have more than enough time to defend themselves. As time passed, the battle proceeded according to Passing Monarch's plans. Although the Thundercloud Leopard's attacks were not particularly powerful, the summoned creature dealt around -20,000 damage with each attack. That was more than enough to hold the Sea Serpent King's aggro. Meanwhile, when the Serpent King attacked, The Thundercloud Leopard easily dodged thanks to its flight ability. As both sides were Tier 3 Great Lords, the Thundercloud Leopard was faster than its opponent, which allowed it to kite the Serpent King while the speedboats attacked the boss. The cannons dealt far more damage than the Thundercloud Leopard, each attack dealing over -70,000 damage. The bronze speedboats were even more impressive, dealing over -110,000 damage with each hit. If special ammunition were used, each attack could deal over -150,000 damage. Unfortunately, special ammunition was very expensive. Even the most common flame shell cost 70 silver coins per round. There was also the more expensive Thunderbolt shell, which cost 1 gold, 50 silver and was considerably more effective against sea monsters. With how high these shells' prices were, if the monster didn't yield anything valuable upon death, they would suffer a major loss. Moreover, sea monsters could block cannon fire, which would drastically reduce the damage they received. It would be fortunate if the attack even dealt 10% of its original damage. Meanwhile, because the Freedom Alliance was occupied with the Sea Serpent King, they disregarded cost as they barraged the Great Lord with Thunderbolt shells. Quick! Attack faster! Passing Monarch's heart began to beat wildly when he noticed that the Sea Serpent King only had 15% of its HP remaining. They were now in a contest of speed against the Sea Serpent King. Their operation might fail if they failed to kill the Great Lord before the Thundercloud Leopard died. As the Sea Serpent King's HP neared 10%, its pitch-black scales turned crimson. Tornadoes then began to twist down from the sky, one after another, plunging the sea zone into chaos. This sudden development hindered the Thundercloud Leopard's movements. As a result, one of the Serpent King's attacks struck, its HP falling by over 500,000 on the spot. More tornadoes descended, moving towards the surrounding speedboats. To make matters worse, the Sea Serpent King had stopped paying attention to the Thundercloud Leopard. Rather, it turned and sped towards the nearby speedboats. Although the targeted speedboats saw the Sea Serpent King approach, the Great Lord moved as if it were unaffected by the magic array's suppression. It was frighteningly fast, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived before an advanced speedboat. Lashing out with its tail, the Great Lord struck the speedboat twice. Instantly, a considerably valuable advanced speedboat shattered and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. None of the crew survived. As for the Thundercloud Leopard, although it tried to pin the Sea Serpent King down again, it stood no chance against the sea monster at all now that the King-class boss had regained its full strength. As soon as the Thundercloud Leopard closed in on the Serpent King, the boss sent it flying with an attack. The summoned creature couldn't stop the Serpent King for even a second. All ships, stop maintaining the magic array and attack the boss. Passing Monarch commanded. It was obvious that the threefold magic array was no longer effective. They had to rely on sacrifice to whittle down the Sea Serpent King. Boom, boom, boom. A series of blasts rang out. Among them, the tornadoes blocked the majority of the attacks, while the Serpent King dodged. Only a small number of cannonballs actually hit the Serpent King. However, the balls only dealt around -100,000 or so damage. Roar! The Sea Serpent King widened its jaws once more, gathering even more mana in its mouth than before. Dodge! Everyone, dodge! Passing Monarch's expression darkened significantly when he saw the frightening amount of mana gathering in the Sea Serpent King's mouth. He then turned to look at a level 42 female elementalist beside him and said, "Joy, use the strongest defensive spell you have." Even without passing Monarch's command, the female elementalist named Blue Joy had retrieved a blue magic scroll from her bag. This magic scroll contained the Tier 2 defensive spell, Purple Flame Shield. As a massive purple barrier formed around passing Monarch's speedboat, the Sea Serpent King launched an attack. The Great Lord fired a red beam from its mouth, the beam leaving behind a massive chasm as it sliced through the water's surface. It looked as if the beam had split the sea in half. In the blink of an eye, over 60% of the 100-plus speedboats sank, with the remaining having suffered heavy damage. Only the 4 bronze speedboats that had used defensive magic scrolls remained intact as they only lost around 40 durability. As for the crews, each player lost over 20,000 HP. What a strong attack power! Xueqi was startled by the Sea Serpent King's attack. Fortunately, his speedboat was over 800 yards away from the Great Lord, not within range of the attack. When Xueqi saw that the Sea Serpent King only had 1% HP remaining, he fell into deep thought. An opportunity had shown itself. If he missed it, he would regret it for a long time. Xueqi aimed the swift dragon speedboat's dragon cannon at the Sea Serpent King and fired. Chapter 1187. Deterring Might. Under. Chapter 1187. Deterring Might. Commander, that person's trying to steal our kill. Damn it! I knew we should have killed him earlier. Commander, let's send a group of speedboats to take care of him. When the Freedom Alliance noticed Xueqi launch an attack at the Sea Serpent King, they burst with rage. Since joining the game, their Freedom Alliance had been responsible for taking advantage of others, and never once had others taken advantage of them. All right, enough. What are you all so worried about? That's a King-class sea monster. Do you think a single speedboat can do anything to it? We can deal with him once we've killed the Sea Serpent King. Although Passing Monarch was furious, he knew full well that they could not afford to split their forces at this critical moment. If they did, they really would let Xueqi take advantage of them. As soon as Passing Monarch finished speaking, Xueqi fired the dragon cannon after aiming at the Sea Serpent King. In the next moment, a black beam flew from the swift dragon speedboat's deck, piercing through the rising waves and slamming into the Serpent King's belly. Roar! The Sea Serpent King cried out in pain as its HP plummeted by 322,849. The attack dealt even more damage than the Freedom Alliance's Thunderbolt shells. Moreover, based on the sea monster's pained cry, one could tell that the attack had injured the Great Lord. Even after so many attacks, this was the first time the Great Lord had cried out. What a powerful cannon! Is this for real? What kind of speedboat is that? Even when we fire the Thunderbolt shells from the bronze speedboats, we only dealt around minus 120,000. Everyone was shocked by the dragon cannon's might. Commander, apparently that other party is no weakling. That speedboat is definitely better than bronze rank. It is likely that it's a peak mysterious iron speedboat. Blue Joy said, shock filling her heart as she looked at the swift dragon speedboat. She wasn't shocked by the speedboat's damage against the Sea Serpent King. After all, to the Sea Serpent King, that damage was far from enough to destroy the Great Lord's remaining 1% HP. With the Great Lord's battle recovery, it would be exceptionally difficult for Xueqi to kill the Serpent King by himself. What had truly shocked her was the swift dragon speedboat's rank. As players of a naval empire, they had fought sea monsters ever since they had left their beginner towns. They also had a much easier time obtaining speedboats than land players. Even so, they, the Freedom Alliance's Third Fleet, had only obtained 4 bronze speedboats. They had also relied on these bronze speedboats to gain a considerable amount of authority for their Third Fleet in the Freedom Alliance. Yet, the speedboat before them was mysterious iron rank. Not even the Freedom Alliance had ever found a speedboat of this rank. Only the first-rate guild based in the Sea's End had obtained one. Due to that speedboat, said first-rate guild had secured a considerable amount of influence in the Sea's End, becoming a power that few would dare to provoke. After all, a fleet led by a mysterious iron speedboat was much stronger than a fleet led by bronze speedboats. If not for the Freedom Alliance's absolute advantage of the number of bronze speedboats they had, the alliance would not stand on equal footing with the first-rate guild. Hence, finding a mysterious iron speedboat before them right now was unbelievable. What a high defense! As expected of a king-class sea monster. Xueqi was slightly astonished when he saw the dragon cannon's damage. The dragon cannon was even more powerful than ordinary Tier 3 spells, yet its attack against the Berserk Sea Serpent King had been insignificant. Fortunately, the cannon had injured the Great Lord, causing it to bleed and sustain a certain degree of damage. Meanwhile, Xueqi had achieved his initial goal. In reality, he hadn't considered killing the Serpent King by himself. A level 52 king-class sea monster wasn't that easy to kill. He had only fired the shot to display his strength before the Freedom Alliance. In God's domain, only the strong were respected. Without sufficient strength, nobody would be taken serious regardless of what they said. Hence, he needed to show the Freedom Alliance what he was capable of. After firing the first shot, Xueqi stopped his assault. Rather, he sent Passing Monarch a message while waiting for the dragon cannon to finish its cooldown. The dragon cannon's cooldown lasted 15 seconds, which was slightly longer than ordinary cannons. Even if the Freedom Alliance did nothing and allowed him to attack the Sea Serpent King freely, he couldn't kill the Great Lord. After all, no single speedboat could easily take down a king-class sea monster. As for Xueqi's message, its contents were very simple. Let's work together to kill the Sea Serpent King. Afterward, we'll split the loot 50-50. When Passing Monarch received this message, his expression twisted. However, Passing Monarch did not reply to Xueqi immediately. Instead, he shared the message in the team chat, letting everyone take a look before making a decision. This person is insane. What kind of crap is he spouting? We're so close to killing the Sea Serpent King, yet he dares to ask for half the loot. That's right. Does he really think we won't obliterate him? The Sea Serpent King has less than 1 million HP remaining. Even if that guy tries to steal our boss, does he think he can escape so many speedboats? Moreover, even if he does steal the last hit, he won't be able to steal the loot right before us. That's right. Commander, our losses this time are so severe. We cannot split half our loot with him. The Freedom Alliance's members opposed Xueqi's offer unanimously. Even with the Swift Dragon speedboat, Xueqi didn't qualify to stand toe-to-toe with them. If they were facing a fleet led by a mysterious iron speedboat, they might agree. However, the other party only had one ship. Passing Monarch shared the same opinion. In any case, the Sea Serpent King had less than 1 million HP remaining. With their fleet's remaining ships, they could take it down very quickly. Following which, Passing Monarch replied to Xueqi, stating, "Thank you for your goodwill. However, we hope to resolve our problems by ourselves." Xueqi simply smiled after reading the reply. There was not the slightest hint of anger in his expression. He then steered the Swift Dragon speedboat away from the Sea Serpent King, showing no intention of stealing the kill. Killing a king-class sea monster with just a fleet led by bronze speedboats. If the Freedom Alliance succeeded, he would bow down to them in respect. "Commander, he's leaving," Blue Joy said, slightly confused when she noticed the Swift Dragon speedboat sail away from the Sea Serpent King. At least he still has a brain. The other members laughed. He's gone. Passing Monarch also could not help but glance at the departing speedboat. Is he really not interested in the Sea Serpent King? However, Passing Monarch did not think too much about the matter. After all, they were still on a precipice. Following which, the remaining speedboats attacked the Sea Serpent King desperately. Although the boss dodged or blocked the majority of their attacks, when their attacks landed, they dealt around -100,000 damage, shaving away the Great Lord's HP. When a thunderbolt shell demolished the Sea Serpent King's remaining 70,000 HP, the Freedom Alliance sighed in relief. They couldn't help their growing excitement. "We killed the Sea Serpent King. Ha ha ha! Our Freedom Alliance is invincible at sea." Everyone celebrated. Until today, not a single fleet in God's domain had managed to kill a king-class sea monsters. Ha! Something's wrong. Why hasn't my experience bar increased? Don't king-class sea monsters give EXP? Some of the Freedom Alliance members realized that something was amiss. However, before they could react, a deafening roar echoed throughout the zone. Before anyone knew it, a massive crimson serpent broke through the water's surface. The serpent before them was not the same as the Sea Serpent King. Not only was it significantly larger, but the serpent also had 2 heads instead of 1. A long pitch-black horn grew from both heads, and one could faintly see arcs of purple electricity circling the horns. As this serpent appeared, the sky turned dark. Sea Serpent King, complete state, Marine King creature, King-class sea monster, Great Lord. Level 52. HP 200 000 000 /200 000 000. Chapter 1188. Breaking Through the Threshold. Under Chapter 1188. Breaking Through the Threshold. The Sea Serpent King's sudden appearance dumbfounded the Freedom Alliance members. What's going on? Didn't we kill it already? How did it get even stronger? This is cheating. Despair swept through the team as they looked at the 2-headed Sea Serpent King. They had already lost over half of their forces to kill the Sea Serpent King. They had even used their Tier 3 summoning scroll. At this point, they were both mentally and physically exhausted, yet not only had the Sea Serpent King just revived with full HP, but it also radiated a far more powerful aura than before. How were they supposed to fight the Sea Serpent King now? Meanwhile, Xueqi, who observed from afar, wasn't surprised by this development. This was the amazing aspect of King-class sea monsters, their true might. The previous fight had simply been a warm-up. Only now would the battle truly begin. In the past, many fleets had challenged King-class sea monsters during the game's early stages. However, every one of these fleets had suffered annihilation. They simply hadn't been prepared. If a fleet struggled to defeat a King-class sea monster in its first phase, once the boss entered its second phase, the battle was a lost cause. Before the team members could regain their senses, both of the Sea Serpent Kings stretched their maws, one spitting flames, while the other spit purple lightning. In the blink of an eye, over half the battlefield drowned in fire and lightning. Any speedboat that encountered both turned to ash immediately. With a single attack, the Freedom Alliance lost another 16 speedboats, with another dozen or so speedboats dropping below 50% durability. Is it just going to end like this? Helplessness filled Passing Monarch's eyes as he stared at the Sea Serpent King. He now realized that challenging a King-class sea monster had been an incredible mistake. Tornadoes enveloped the area around his fleet. It was impossible for their speedboats to break out of this encirclement. Only a mysterious iron speedboat would have any hope of escape. When Passing Monarch thought about how the fleet he and his companions had put together after through so much difficulty was about to be destroyed due to his reckless choice, guilt gripped his heart. Those were 4 bronze speedboats they were talking about. Their third fleet had spent a ton of effort to obtain these bronze speedboats. It would take them a very long time to secure another 4. Suddenly, Passing Monarch received another message from Xueqi. Interested in working together now? When Passing Monarch read the new message, he was confused. Do we still have any hope of winning? Their Tier 3 summon creature had less than 1/3 of its HP remaining. They had less than 40 speedboats. Even with the strength of a mysterious iron speedboat, they had no chance of defeating the Sea Serpent King. However, when Passing Monarch recalled Xueqi's attack against the Serpent King before it had died, he realized that it was possible that the man may have predicted this situation. Immediately, Passing Monarch sent Xueqi a friend request. This way, both sides could contact each other with ease. If we work together, do we really have a chance of defeating the Sea Serpent King? Passing Monarch demanded. We would have had a 50% chance of winning if we had started working together earlier. Now, we only have about a 30% chance, Xueqi replied after considering the odds. 50%? That high? Passing Monarch suddenly regretted his earlier dismissal. Had he known that something like this would happen, he would have agreed to team up with Xueqi earlier. However, he had no choice but to give it a shot right now. A 30% success rate was better than nothing. Alright, I promise you that, as long as we kill the Sea Serpent King, we'll split the loot 50-50, Passing Monarch said. In response, however, Xueqi shook his head and said, that was the previous condition. Now, I want all of the loot. He had never involved himself with the Freedom Alliance in the past. They were neither friends nor foes. He was already being generous by offering to lend a hand. Hearing Xueqi's words, Passing Monarch's expression turned indescribably ugly. However, he had to admit that each side's standing had transformed. The Freedom Alliance was now at a major disadvantage as Xueqi could swiftly leave the battlefield with his swift dragon speedboat. Gnashing his teeth, all right, I agree. Passing Monarch felt tears well up in his eyes. No matter what was said or done, he was a famous expert that everybody in the Sea's End knew, yet he was at Xueqi's mercy. No one would ever believe this. Following which, both sides signed a system contract, agreeing that all of the Sea Serpent King's loot would go to Xueqi once the boss died. Once they finished, Passing Monarch sent Xueqi a team invite. However, Xueqi rejected it. We're not forming a team? Passing Monarch asked, confused. Normally, naval battles had strict requirements regarding the ship's positioning. The fleet's commander needed to issue commands constantly. Since Xueqi had claimed to have a way to kill the Sea Serpent King, logically, he should join the team and lead it. So, how was he going to issue orders if he did not join the team? No need. Your team just needs to focus on one thing. Maintain a distance of 500 yards and attack the Sea Serpent King at maximum range. Leave the rest to me, Xuefeng explained. Passing Monarch nearly choked. What kind of command was this? Did Xuefeng think he could hold the Sea Serpent King off with just a mysterious iron speedboat? Even the Freedom Alliance had to rely on their 4 bronze speedboats and rotate blocking attacks to pin the boss down. However, after Xuefeng said this, he disconnected the call. With no other choice, Passing Monarch followed Xuefeng's command and reorganized his fleet, directing their speedboats keep a distance. Xuefeng steered the Swift Dragon speedboat to charge at the Sea Serpent King. As the Great Lord was about to target one of the bronze speedboats, Xuefeng fired the dragon cannon once more. Only this time, he used a special kind of ammunition. Basic Mana Pulse Bomb. Although Zero Wing had used most of the basic mana pulse bombs they had obtained in the Fallen Ark on the petrified Tyrannosauruses, Xuefeng had around 20 remaining. Boom! When he fired the dragon cannon, a black beam struck the Sea Serpent King once more. Minus 1,574,917. Tidal waves rose as the basic mana pulse bomb, combined with the dragon cannon's might, collided with the Sea Serpent King and exploded. What kind of attack is that? Passing Monarch was stunned. What is that speedboat's rank? A single shot had dealt over 1 million damage to a King-class sea monster. This was inconceivable. The other Freedom Alliance members were similarly stupefied. When a few considered their previous claim of annihilating Xuefeng, they felt fortunate that they had not acted on their words. If it really came down to a fight, a single shot from the Swift Dragon speedboat was likely more than enough to sink a bronze speedboat. However, the dragon cannon's damage didn't particularly surprise Xuefeng. After a king-class sea monster entered its second phase, while it might seem very strong, that was only true for the surface. In reality, reaching a complete state simply meant that a Sea Serpent King had focused its abilities on strengthening its attacks. As a result, however, its defense and movement speed weakened. As long as players pinned the boss down and had sufficient damage output, victory was in the bag. However, it was precisely because many fleets in the past hadn't been capable of distracting king-class sea monsters long enough that these monsters had been so difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the king-class sea monster they faced right now was only a Great Lord. Against the Sea Serpent King, the secret silver-ranked Swift Dragon speedboat had the advantage regarding speed. In addition, the dragon cannon was sufficiently powerful to hold aggro. If not for these factors, Xuefeng would have long since fled the battlefield. King-class sea monsters also tended to use skills, and almost every skill they had was an AoE. If a fleet couldn't defeat a king-class sea monster before their overall firepower fell to the minimum requirement, it would be obliterated. After Xuefeng had fired the dragon cannon, the Sea Serpent King was relatively battered. The cannon fire had blown apart a large section of its scales, leaving behind a huge scorch mark. Roar! The Sea Serpent King glared at the Swift Dragon speedboat. Aside from a hint of fear, its gaze radiated killing intent. Without hesitation, both its heads opened their mouths and bombarded the Swift Dragon speedboat with fire and purple lightning. It seems that the attack was quite effective. Now that he had solidified his hold on the Sea Serpent King's aggro, Xuefeng turned his speedboat and fled. He activated Accelerate, increasing the Swift Dragon speedboat's movement speed by 100%, easily avoiding the incoming attacks. The Swift Dragon speedboat was already faster than the Sea Serpent King. After activating Accelerate, Xuefeng maintained a distance of 600 yards from the Sea Serpent King and attack at maximum range. This distance was also the Serpent King's limit. With this, the Sea Serpent King couldn't attack him, but it wouldn't give up the chase, either. Just who is he? Shock filled Passing Monarch as he watched Xuefeng's control over the Swift Dragon speedboat and the boat's speed. Passing Monarch finally understood why Xuefeng had told him to leave the rest to him. In such a way, Xuefeng led the Sea Serpent King in circles. All the Freedom Alliance's speedboats needed to do was bombard the boss and avoid the occasional AoE attack. As time went by and the Sea Serpent King's HP decreased, the Freedom Alliance's speedboats sank, one after another. Even Xuefeng sometimes made a mistake and received one or two of the Great Lord's attacks. Fortunately, as a secret silver speedboat, the Swift Dragon speedboat had frightening defense. It only lost around 30 durability after a direct hit. As for Xueqi, he had deflected the damage using Defensive Blade or Absolute Defense. When the Sea Serpent King's HP fell to 1%, it went berserk and used its strongest power. Both its heads merged the fire and lightning, launching an attack that consumed a radius of 1,000 yards. Seeing this, Xueqi activated Magic Barrier, making the Swift Dragon speedboat immune to all spell attacks and neutralizing the Sea Serpent King's damage. As for the Freedom Alliance's side, aside from the 4 bronze speedboats, which used magic scrolls to protect themselves, the remaining speedboats were destroyed. Meanwhile, after the Sea Serpent King used its ultimate move, it entered a weakened state. Using this opportunity, Xueqi activated Divine Providence. After waiting for the 4 bronze speedboats to launch a wave of attacks, he fired the dragon cannon, which he had loaded with a basic mana pulse bomb. Minus 2,148,267. A massive damage appeared above the Sea Serpent King's head, devouring its remaining 1% HP. Roar! After one final roar, the Serpent King crashed into the sea. Xueqi's experience bar rose rapidly. Sea monsters already provided far more EXP than land-based monsters, as players couldn't easily kill the average sea monster, not to mention king-class sea monsters. However, Xueqi had stolen half of the Sea Serpent King's EXP for himself. With the bonus EXP he had obtained from killing a monster of a higher level, one could just imagine how abundant the rewarded EXP was. Suddenly, Xueqi heard the sound of a system notification. System. Congratulations! You have reached level 50. Chapter 1189. Equipment Transformation. Under Chapter 1189. Equipment Transformation. As a golden glow enveloped Xueqi's body, his weapons and equipment also underwent a slight transformation. Level 50 was a major turning point in God's domain. This fact held true for players, monsters, weapons, and equipment. Among Xueqi's items, the fragmented legendary ranked Heavenly Dragon's Breath's transformation was the most drastic. As if the power that had slumbered within the ring all this time had awakened, the ring's basic attributes increased significantly. At level 49, the ring only added 100 points to all basic attributes. However, upon reaching level 50, that number had doubled. His epic items, the 7 Luminaries Ring, Killing Ray, Angry Tyrant, Annihilation Shoulder Pads, and Icarus's Heart had similarly received around a 30% to 35% increase to their basic attributes. The substantial attribute boost made Xueqi feel as if he had been reborn. Basic attributes affected a player's physique. The higher a player's attributes were, the better their in-game body's physique became, allowing players to perform feats that were impossible in the real world. This was also why both ordinary players and experts were so desperate for excellent weapons and equipment. This improvement is simply amazing. Xueqi felt quite pleased as he looked at his attribute panel. In terms of basic attributes, he was already significantly stronger than a level 50 Tier 2 player. The only differences were his physique and skills. These differences were why Tier 2 players could easily defeat Tier 1 players. In God's domain, it wasn't unheard of for players to possess attributes that rivaled those of a higher tier. However, due to inferior physiques, they couldn't challenge those of a higher tier. Normally, players could only make up for the difference in physiques if their basic attributes far outstripped their opponents. As players rose to new tiers, their life ratings increased slightly, which would, in turn, improve their physique. For example, while her superior basic attributes had been part of the reason for Gentle Snow's victory over Miracle Dragon, the main reason the 30% physique improvement granted by the 7 Luminaries battle armor. This effect alone bolstered Gentle Snow's physique nearly to that of a Tier 2 player. After taking into account her attributes, she had the physique of a Tier 2 player. At the end of the day, challenging experts of a higher tier was very difficult in God's domain. Few people were actually capable of doing so. Miracle Dragon was not one of them. Hence, Gentle Snow's victory hadn't been unexpected. This was the terror of tier suppression. In the past, Xueqi had suffered due to this truth. Meanwhile, the Freedom Alliance members had also noticed Xueqi's transformation. Commander, that person feels particularly dangerous. Just who is he? Not only does he have such a powerful speedboat, but his personal strength is also monstrous. As everyone looked at Xueqi, they felt as if they faced an awakened beast. Originally, they had planned to steal the Sea Serpent King's loot. After all, only their commander had signed a contract with Xueqi. Now, however, they gave up such thoughts. Although the tornadoes circling the area had disappeared with the Sea Serpent King's death, with the bronze speedboat speed, how could they possibly outrun the Swift Dragon speedboat? They had witnessed the Swift Dragon speedboat's agility personally. Not even the Sea Serpent King had been able to keep up with it. The ship also had that frightening dragon cannon. Even if they used magic scrolls to bolster their bronze speedboat's defenses, it would take only a few shots to drain their boat's remaining durability. Moreover, they estimated that the dragon cannon's range spanned more than 800 yards. On the other hand, their bronze speedboats only had a range of 500 yards. Xueqi could easily toy with them until they died. Using return scrolls wasn't possible either. If one picked up a sea monster's loot, they would have to wait until the 2-hour holding period was over before they could use their return scrolls. When Passing Monarch saw the Sea Serpent King's loots floating on the ocean surface, envy flashed in his eyes. He hadn't imagined that so many items would drop. Sea monsters already dropped roughly 2 or 3 times more loot than land monsters, yet the Sea Serpent King had dropped over 100 items. Ha! Forget it. At least we survived and gained a level. It's better than losing our ships and lives. Passing Monarch could not help but sigh. Xueqi wasn't the only one who had leveled up after the Sea Serpent King's death. The Freedom Alliance survivors had also leveled. Most importantly, all 4 bronze speedboats were still afloat. The Freedom Alliance only needed to spend a little bit of money to obtain more ordinary speedboats. As for advanced speedboats, they might need to put in some effort, but it was possible to obtain a dozen or so within a short time span. However, bronze speedboats were not easy to replace. As expected of a godly tool, Xueqi sailed about, frantically collecting the King-class sea monster's loot. Although he hadn't triggered a jackpot, the Sea Serpent King was the first King-class sea monster to die in this sea zone. As a result, its loot was far more abundant than usual. Normally, a player would be lucky if a King-class sea monster dropped around 50 items. Moreover, over 80% usually consisted of materials. This time wasn't much different. However, perhaps due to Divine Providence's effect, among the 100-plus items, over 90 were rare materials used in producing advanced speedboats, bronze speedboats, and small sailboats. Among them, the most valuable was moonlight wood. Moonlight wood was a rare material necessary to produce bronze speedboats and small sailboats. Fortunately, Xueqi had obtained a total of 12 logs. Constructing a bronze speedboat required 10 logs. After Xueqi finished picking up the loot, he began to organize the items in his bag. Wonderful! A design dropped. Xueqi grew excited as he looked at the leather book in his hands. The pages had already yellowed, and it looked as if it had been many years since anybody had read it. However, after appraising the book and discovering its name, he realized that any guild would go crazy over this design. Flying Eagle Speedboat Design. Although the Flying Eagle Speedboat was not a bronze speedboat, it was an advanced speedboat. With enough reputation, one could buy ordinary speedboats from certain NPC merchants. However, it was a different story for advanced speedboats. One could only obtain them by completing rare quests or trading special materials that sea monsters dropped. Now that he had the design for an advanced speedboat, he could build an unlimited number of advanced speedboats as long as he had sufficient materials and a small shipyard. Although the Third Fleet Passing Monarch commanded had become such a powerful force in the sea's end due to the 4 bronze speedboats, the 20-plus advanced speedboats also played an important role. If Zero Wing could form a fleet of advanced speedboats with the Swift Dragon speedboat in the lead, the guild could rank at the top of God's domain's naval powers. Just thinking about this excited Xueqi. There were only a handful of super guilds that could rival such a naval force right now. Zero Wing could develop in a coastal NPC city without worry. Even if super guilds wanted to pick a fight, they would have to think twice before doing so. After all, it was far more costly to fight a war at sea than on land. Not only would their guild members lose levels from dying, but they would also lose their ships. There was no repairing a destroyed ship. Following which, Xueqi stored the Flying Eagle speedboat design and examined the other dropped items. Among the 11 remaining items in his bag, Xueqi discovered a very familiar item. Thunder Emblem. Chapter 1190. Authority. Under. Chapter 1190. Authority. Is this the benefit of killing a king-class sea monster? Xueqi was surprised and overjoyed as he looked at the purple-gold lightning emblem in his hand. The Thunder Emblem. As its name suggested, it was a Thunder Island emblem. One could also say that it was an authority symbol for Thunder Island. Any guild that obtained the Thunder Emblem would have a major advantage when contesting for authority over Thunder Island. As far as Xueqi knew, Thunder Island had a total of 10 Thunder Emblems. If one obtained all 10, they would become Thunder Island's absolute master. However, only 5 Thunder Emblems had ever been discovered in the past, and every guild that obtained these Thunder Emblems had been one of the dominant forces on Thunder Island. The Thunder Emblem had 3 main functions. Its first was similar to the Thunder Pass. Unlike the Thunder Pass, however, each emblem allowed up to 50 players to participate in Thunder Island's contest. Every time a contest was about to begin, a fixed number of Thunder Passes would drop from sea monsters in the Sea of Death. However, that didn't count the Thunder Emblem's 50 slots. If one could gather all 10 Thunder Emblems, they could bring an additional 500 players to the island. The Thunder Emblem's second function was the Thunder Domain. While on Thunder Island, players wielding the emblem could suppress all enemies within a 500-yard radius. However, this suppression effect was not particularly strong, only reducing players' basic attributes by 5%. However, the suppression worked wonders against the island's monsters as it could reduce their basic attributes by up to 30%. As for the third function, it granted advanced authority on Thunder Island. This advanced authority was the Thunder Emblem's most important function. If a guild wanted to develop on Thunder Island, having sufficient authority was extremely important. Without enough authority, one couldn't do anything. As players gained more authority, they could enjoy more benefits on the island. Currently, the various superpowers were vying for Thunder Island. However, even if they occupied the area, they could only gain basic authority. Ordinary players had no hope of gaining any authority whatsoever. However, one's authority wouldn't remain constant, either. If one wanted more, they could contribute to Thunder Island. On Thunder Island, authority was categorized into ordinary, basic, intermediate, advanced, and master controller. If an ordinary player wanted to become an ordinary controller, they needed 300 Thunder contribution points. Reaching the basic rank required 3,000 Thunder contribution points, 10,000 points to reach the intermediate rank, and 100,000 points to reach the advanced rank. After reaching the advanced rank, one could only increase their authority if they obtained all 10 Thunder Emblems. As Xueqi examined the Thunder Emblem in his hand, he began playing with the idea of occupying a part of Thunder Island himself. In the past, Thunder Island had been known as a sacred land at sea. Countless players had wanted to live on the island. After all, traveling to dangerous sea zones would be more convenient from Thunder Island than it would be from a coastal town or city. Occupying a corner of the island would do wonders for Zero Wing's development. Zero Wing also qualified to do so right now due to the Flying Eagle speedboat design he had just obtained. He admitted that Zero Wing was no match for the various superpowers on land. However, the competition at sea relied on more than a guild's number and quality of experts. A guild's ships played a far greater role. Xueqi decided that he needed to begin mass-producing the Flying Eagle speedboats, forming a formidable Zero-Wing fleet. With his fleet strength and the Thunder Emblem, occupying a corner of Thunder Island could be more than just a dream. Following which, Xueqi contacted Melancholic Smile and had her begin collecting diamond wood, the Flying Eagle speedboat's core materials. Diamond wood was relatively rare, specifically used to construct advanced ships. Few kingdoms and empires produced the wood. Fortunately, he had previously negotiated with the Secret Pavilion and traded a magic tower for 20 locations that provided diamond wood. Although the Secret Pavilion had yet to complete their side of the deal, he could have Melancholic Smile send people to these minor cities to negotiate prices with potential vendors. Once their bargain with the Secret Pavilion was fulfilled, they could stockpile diamond wood. The Sea Serpent King had also dropped 5 Thunder Passes, each allowing up to 10 players to join the contest on Thunder Island. To the various superpowers vying for Thunder Island, these passes were incredibly tempting. To Xueqi, however, they were not particularly useful as Zero Wing currently did not have that many experts. The Thunder Emblem's 50 slots were more than enough. I have wondered which items I should sell at the candlelight auction. These passes should work well as an attraction, Xueqi muttered, smiling at the 5 passes in his hand. In reality, he could sell the passes to Phoenix Rain. However, doing so would cause her to question their origin. One needed to kill boss-rank sea monsters in the Sea of Death to obtain the Thunder Passes. However, Zero Wing was a land-based guild that did not possess any naval power. So, how could Zero Wing kill boss-rank sea monsters? Zero Wing didn't have a foundation at sea. It was still too early to contest for Thunder Island, so exposing their trump cards was not wise. Even if they wanted to reveal their strength, they needed to do so after forming their fleet of advanced speedboats. Zero Wing simply needed to sit back and watch the various superpowers fight each other while slowly building their own naval power. Moreover, the Sea of Death was still too dangerous for current players. Even if they secured a share of Thunder Island, it would be of little use. The various superpowers only contested for the island because they wanted a head start in accumulating contribution points. Since he had the Thunder Emblem, he had no need to do that. There were 3 Tier 3 magic scrolls among the remaining 5 items the Sea Serpent King had dropped. A Tier 3 summoning scroll, a Tier 3 large-scale destruction spell, and a Tier 3 defensive scroll. Of the last 2 items, one was an epic staff, Fallen Language, while the other was a bronze-rank small sailboat, the One-Horned Sailboat. What? A complete small sailboat actually dropped. Xueqi was momentarily stunned when he saw the transparent crystal bottle. Previously, he had obtained a small sailboat from the fallen Arkansas. However, even now, the hurricane sailboat was unusable. Although he had asked Burning Abyss to repair it, even Burning Abyss, who was a master engineer, was powerless. The divine ruins inside the sailboat were simply too damaged. At the very least, one needed a Grandmaster engineer to repair the hurricane sailboat. The sailboat's container also needed to be replaced. However, the hurricane sailboat's container was not ordinary as it had been crafted with the rare epic material, space crystal. Current players had no access to this material. Hence, Xueqi had no choice but to set the matter aside for now. Otherwise, with the mysterious iron-ranked hurricane sailboat, he would be invincible at sea. Now that he had obtained a complete bronze-rank small sailboat, how could he not be excited? With this small sailboat, he could easily deal with many of the issues plaguing him. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.